Good morning. Good morning. It is almost 9:30 in the East. It's March 3rd. It's day 29 of the Alec Murdaugh double homicide trial. He was convicted last night and is being sentenced today. I was stunned when the court took a look at their watch and was like, well, it's a little late tonight. When would you like to put over the sentencing? I want both parties to have ample time to prepare. And the state said, we can be ready at 9:30 tomorrow morning. And then the defense said, we can be ready at 9:30 tomorrow too. What? Alec Murdaugh is facing life in prison on the financial crimes. So I am not surprised that this sentencing is moving fast. He is facing life in prison on these as well. The state does have the death penalty. It did not seek that here, and I can see why on this evidence. They truly can sentence him to, if they're allowed to do consecutive life sentences, to life plus life. They could do 70 years to life or some variation in between. We will see. I think the most important part today is not the sentencing. We know he's going to be in custody for life. The most important part today for me, let me know what you think. Hi, good to see you. I have hot water and lemon this morning. My voice needs it. The most important thing for me today, who speaks, who they speak for, because today is the day for victim impact statements. The judge will give their thoughts on this case at sentencing. We will see potentially a statement to the court from Alec Murdaugh on his own behalf again. We might see Buster speak. We might see and hear truly from Maggie's family for the first time. We're going to hear from the prosecution and from the defense at sentencing. So I don't know how long this hearing will go, but this hearing can go for quite a while to give everyone time to speak. Just like in the victim impact statements in the Brooks case, the court will honor that space. Victim impact statements are hard, they are raw, they are unfiltered, and they are a critical part of this system, and often the only time that victims get to speak really directly to the court about what they think, about how they feel about the case, about the impact that it's had on their lives. Really, the only time in the process that they're heard from in that way is at the end. And we saw the judge ask the jurors if they wanted to be there today and extended the invitation that the jurors can be there at sentencing. And I expect we'll see some of that as well. I know we're already seeing the jurors giving interviews. I'm not surprised by that. I have not watched those yet. I will check in on that after the sentencing today. There wasn't a lot of time between finishing streaming last night and starting streaming this morning, to be perfectly honest. So let me know where you're coming in from, what you're drinking. We're going to wait for the court to resume and chit chat about this case a little bit more. Let's go. Hey there, I'm Emily D. Baker, the internet's go-to legal analyst, breaking down the legal side of the pop culture and entertainment stories we can't stop talking about. I'm a big fan of the cursey words. I've been a licensed attorney for over 17 years, but this is not legal advice. This is where the law nerds unite to talk about facts, not. Let's get into it. Also, I have to give a huge law nerd thank you to all of you that made this week's podcast so popular. So if you have not watched this week's Emily show, thank you very much. You will also get the links to those in case you're like, wait, there's other things we do other than trial. Yes, if you go to lawnerdalert.com, you'll get the links. We are at the end of week 6. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. For those of you asking for the chat to be on slow mode, we are on slow mode. There's just, almost 40,000 of you here. So that's the way that goes. So thank you. And don't forget, if you're on your device and stuff, you can grab it and kind of pull it to go back and see stuff. So appreciate you. We also have quite a lot of members, and the members aren't subjected to slow mode. So no matter how much we slow the mode and how much we slow our rolls, it will still fly because we have so many incredible law nerds that are members on the channel. With all of that, yes, I did see that a juror spoke. No, I did not see what it was. So I've got, I said hot water. Oh, we got coffee early this morning. Thank you, Dr. B. We got sentencing this morning.
You kind of put a urgency on bring the coffee.
I didn't mean to. Did I say bring the coffee?
You did.
I did?
I think you rung a bell.
Oh, wait, where's the gavel? Can you grab the... Oh, I didn't mean to hit you. Move your body.
Yeah,
I didn't mean to grab the gavels. They're over there.
Is this the bell? Instead of a bell, you're just gonna like pound
Wait,
the table?
Wait, which one? Which one do we do? This one just says facts, not fuckery. This one says facts, not fuckery, law nerds unit. Let's go with this one. Oh, where's my... I've got a lucite one, but my kids stole it. Bring the coffee! How's that? Bye, honey. Don't let us blow away while I'm streaming. Wait, did you bring me a napkin? There's water. Okay, I got it. Can I have a napkin? Can I have a napkin? Thanks. Okay, here's the backup plan. So because we've run over so long, my poor friend Chris is who is also the right hand on my team, is our right hand today. I've got one somewhere. Is our right hand today. We also have weather concerns here today. So if for any reason my stream goes down a little bit, we will just swap out feeds until I am back. So that is, thank you, darling. You're the best. Thank you, honey. We will swap out feeds until I am back. It is a very real... Oh no, I know exactly what Dr. B did. He was just keeping up communications, but he was not inverted. So, there's that. If we have issues with stream, it is weather related. For all of you that are on strong weather advisories in the middle bits here, I hear you. So if that happens, we will just swap out the feed. It might take us a moment, but we will swap out the feed and keep the feed going until I come back. So do not worry about that. We've got you covered here either way, because I know part of what you love is being in this chat. It's what I love too. So court is still not back yet. Emily, I love you. Top Gun before coffee. Yes. Top Gun reference before coffee. Look, I'm old. It's here. It's fine. And I love that there's some that are like, Emily, stop saying you're old. My kid is watching the Leonardo DiCaprio Romeo and Juliet in school. I'm not recovered. I loved that movie. Our teachers would have never. And he's like, Mom, there's parts of it that are a little cringe. And I'm like, how dare you? Sir, how dare you? He had no idea who Claire Danes was. I was like, oh, right. Okay. Because you live in a world where we can't have nice things, but we're going to just bring back all things 90s and it'll be fine. Genevieve said, Emily, I'm on a plane with all the water polo players. Oh, Genevieve, have a good giggle at how they all try to sit next to each other with their shoulders. It's a giggle. It's absolutely a giggle. Swimmers too, when they try to stick them three in a seat, especially the 6'4" and taller variety, you try to stick them all next to each other, and it's just lots of shoulders and people trying to minimize the like wingspan of their bodies. But yes, water polo teams definitely take up a lot of space on planes. Could the jurors' statements to the media be used in appeals? No. Well, no. I was trying to give a clear answer. It depends. We're going there next week. Y'all remember the Maxwell case? I can't say the first name. If I say the first name and the last name together, or the person that she's associated with, whose last name starts with an E, if I say those things together, it will take like a month for you to find my videos again, because YouTube will immediately yeet. I find that generally annoying. But the Maxwell person who was recently convicted, we covered that case here. Their appeal that just recently got sent up does have to do with the jurors' statements to the media. I covered that. The jurors' statements to the media in that case are concerning. I was very surprised that the trial court didn't issue a new trial at that point. If you go back to my coverage, you will see it. I was very surprised. But that juror in that case said that they didn't tell the court everything on their jury intake form. So that is a big problem. So the statements to the media made it clear that they had left things off of the juror intake form. That can be a very big problem. But the juror stating, this is what we thought was important about the case, this was not, that's not a problem. If the juror makes a statement that there was malfeasance in some way, that could be a big problem. So, could the juror's statements to the media be used in appeals? It depends on what they say. If they say, oh, yeah, somebody, look, I want to be real clear. This is hypothetical, said in a hypothetical way. If a juror said, someone paid us to vote one way or the other, people brought us food, people threatened our families, people showed up to our homes, people added us on social media, people disclosed our identities, our employers were pressuring us, things like that, those kinds of statements, yeah, that's a big deal. But a juror's statements of, this is how the process was, it was really cold in the courtroom, it was hard, they served us sandwiches for lunch every day, those kinds of statements, no. So it really just depends on the types of statements. I believe the verdict timing was 2 hours and 40 minutes. Okay. The ebb and flow of this case has been quite the journey. Oh yes, we've had very boring days where we did nothing but talk about foundation, and we had days where we heard about the defendant crapping his own pants. I mean, we've had days in this case. Just days. We've had days. Some of you have bought guilty donuts. I see it in the chat. Sometimes breakfast snacks are appropriate the day after a verdict. So, Grandma to Sully, thank you for the question. I didn't mean to oversimplify. I try to make things simpler, but it depends on the statements, and yes. Good morning, America. Just interviewed a juror. Very interesting. I absolutely love your channel and watched everything with you. I will look at that later. We're starting to hear the court. Court's in session. Good morning, Emily. Happy Friday. I've been hooked on this trial and I've learned so much from you. Love law nerds. We rock. Yes, the law nerds unite. We are amazing. I will get to this in a second, or when I have a break. Let me bump this volume a little bit. Oh, that's me. User error. Shock. Yee. I will switch between feeds today. I like the sound better on these feeds.
Parties ready to proceed?
Stage ready, Your Honor. Bench is ready, Your Honor.
All right, from the stage.
Very full
Mr. Waters.
courtroom.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And we're proceeding
obviously here in the sentencing
to sentencing.
for the state versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh. Your Honor, I have prepared the sentencing sheets signed up. If I can hand those up to the clerk. Your Honor, very quickly, the defendant has no prior record.
Yeah, we know.
And the state has no victim impact people who want to speak at this time.
Really?
But I will address the court briefly. And I don't need Your Honor to
impact statement.
repeat the evidence that Your Honor just heard for the past 6 weeks, but it is overwhelming.
Shocking.
And it shows this man to be a cunning manipulator, a man who placed himself above all others, including his family, a man who violated the trust of so many, including his friends, his family, his partners, his profession, but most of all, Maggie and Paul. This is a very complicated situation, and I want to offer my condolences to the family that has suffered here. We have tried very hard to be respectful and sensitive regardless of what position any person took, because this family has suffered and they've had to suffer in the public eye. And I want to offer my condolences to this family. I'm
going to switch audio real
Maggie
quick.
And Paul and Mr. Randolph. Condolences to this family. I want to offer it for Maggie and Paul and Mr. Randolph too, who I had the pleasure of working with.
Everybody,
on one
it
occasion.
seems that everybody did.
But the reality remains is that despite all this attention, this case is about Maggie Murdaugh and Paul Murdaugh. And I'm so thankful that the jurors gave them a voice. You heard about Paul. Obviously, there was the boat case, but you also heard him described as a fun-loving young man, a person who loved life, a person who would do anything for his friends, for anyone. And he's cut down as he was just starting to live his life. You heard about Maggie. You heard how sweet she was. You heard that she was a girl's girl who adapted to the outdoorsman life of her sons, how much she loved her sister and her brother-in-law and their children. and she was cut down in the prime of her life. Both of them, like everyone else, was unaware of who he really was. No one who thought they knew this man, no one who thought they were close to this man knew who he really was. And Your Honor, that's chilling. And I've looked in his eyes, and he liked to stare me down as he would walk by me during this trial.
Yes, he did.
And I could
Can you
see
see the sheriff nodding?
the real Alex Murdaugh when he looked at me.
Yes, he did.
The depravity, the callousness, the selfishness
Yes, sir,
of
he
these
did
crimes
that.
are stunning. The lack of remorse and the effortless way in which he lies, including here sitting right over there in this witness stand. Your Honor, a man like that, a man like this man, should never be allowed to be among free, law-abiding citizens again. And I would submit to you that the only just sentence here to give justice for Maggie and Paul
The sheriff,
is the
right?
maximum.
He was just like, fuck
now
yeah.
would be 2 consecutive life sentences. Thank you, Your Honor.
The state is asking for consecutive life
You
sentences,
indicate that no one,
life plus life.
no victim would like to speak at this time. Would any victim like to speak at any time during these proceedings?
Your Honor, one of the things we did early on, obviously, as I just said, it's a very complicated situation, but we made the decision early on. We've had our victim advocate here who's been doing a wonderful job, regardless of the viewpoints of any individual family member, to provide aid and service to them. And we made that decision.
See
I'm
Mark
informed by
Tinsley
our
in the
victim advocate that none
audience.
of them wish to speak. The defense can certainly address that, but that's what I am informed. But they certainly were offered the opportunity as is required. And I want to commend our victim advocate on the
They
excellent
do not
job
wanna
she
speak.
did in handling this complex situation that we wanted to be sensitive to, because again, none of us are not mindful of the fact of the suffering of this family.
Or all of us are mindful of the suffering of this
I
family.
know SLED Chief Mark Keel is here. Would you like to address the court on any matters, Chief?
Wow.
Yes, sir. Just to say, again, very proud of our agents, the work they've done, and proud of the partnership.
The
we've
chief
had
of
with the
SLED
Attorney General's office.
Sitting at the prosecution table.
Had for many years, and again, we're here to see the justice is served, and we believe it has.
SLED was much maligned in this trial. I'm not surprised no,
For the
that's,
defense.
I am surprised the court
Your
asked,
Honor,
actually.
Mr. Griffin and I would have no comment. The defendant would like to address the court, though.
Alec Murdaugh is going to address the court.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Okay. He is now
I'm
changed
innocent.
hands and feet.
I would never hurt my wife Maggie, and I would never hurt my son Paw.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
And Alec Murdaugh professes his innocence again before
Anything further?
this court.
I don't think further comment is necessary, Your Honor.
No
Murdoch,
statements.
You'll come before the court for sentencing.
Now we're going to hear what the court has to say. Wow. No statements from family for Alec Murdaugh either.
This has been perhaps one of the most troubling cases, not just for me as a judge, for the state, for the defense team, but for all of the citizens in this community, all the citizens in this state, and as we've seen based on the media coverage throughout the nation. You have a wife who's been killed, murdered, a son savagely murdered, a lawyer, a person from a respected family who has controlled justice in this community for over a century.
Controlled justice in this community is what
Person
he said.
whose grandfather's portrait hang at the back of the courthouse that I had to have ordered removed in order to ensure that a fair trial was had by both the state and the defense. And I've sat through the trial. Not only have I sat through the trial, but also as the presiding judge of the state grand jury, sat through and participated in the issuance of search warrants of various sorts, bond hearings, and have had to consider many things. And we have this case, and I'm also assigned to preside over 99 others, at least 99 other cases.
Yes, Judge Newman is the judge on all of the
Though
financial
testimony
crimes
has
as well.
come up regarding many of those other cases. I will not make any comment with regard to any other pending matter, as I have been assigned those cases as well. It's also particularly troubling, Mr. Murdaugh, because as a member of the legal community and a well-known member of the legal community, you've practiced law before me, and we've seen each other at various occasions throughout the years. And it was especially heartbreaking for me to see you
Wow.
go in the media from being a grieving father who lost a wife and a son to being the person indicted and convicted of killing them. And you've engaged in such duplicitous conduct here in the courtroom, here on the witness stand.
Wow.
And as established by the testimony throughout the time leading from the time of the indictment and prior to the indictment throughout the trial to this moment in time, certainly you have no obligation to say anything other than saying not guilty.
But he did.
And obviously his appeals are probably expected or absolutely expected. I would not expect a confession of any kind. In fact, as I've presided over
I appreciate he's
murder
making
cases
his
over the
expectation
past
clear.
22 years, I have yet to find a defendant who could go there, who could go back to that moment in time when they decided to pull the trigger or to otherwise murder someone. I have not been able to get anyone, any defendant, even those who have confessed to being guilty, to go back and explain to me what happened at that moment in time when they opted to pull the trigger, when they opted to commit the most heinous crimes known to man. In this case, qualifies under our death penalty statute.
And the state did
Based
not
on
seek it.
the statutory aggravating circumstances of 2 or more people being murdered by the defendant by one act or pursuant to one scheme or course of conduct. I don't question at all the decision of the state not to pursue the death penalty. But as I sit here in this courtroom and look around the
I think it was the right choice.
many
Well, I wouldn't have filed this case, but I think it was the right
portraits of
choice.
judges and other court officials, and reflect on the fact that over the past century, your family, including you, have been prosecuting people here in this courtroom, and many have received the death penalty, probably for lesser conduct.
Wow.
Remind me of the expression you gave on the witness stand. Was it tangled?
Web.
Oh, what tangle
Web we weave.
we weave. What did you mean by that?
Meant when I lied, I continue to lie.
And the question is, when will it end? When will it end? And it's ended already for the jury because they've concluded that you continued to lie and lied throughout your testimony. And perhaps with all the throng of people here, they, for the most part, all believe, or 80, 90%, 99% believe that you continue to lie now when your statement of denial to the court.
The judge
Perhaps you believe that
straight
it
up telling
does
him,
not matter, that there's nothing that can mitigate a sentence given the crimes that were committed.
it's fair.
You know, a notice of alibi was filed in this case by counsel in November, and we conducted a hearing, pretrial hearing, in which you claimed to have been someplace else at the time the crime was committed. Then, after all of the witnesses placed you at the scene of the crime, at the last minute, or last minutes or days, you
Wow.
you switch courses and admitted to being there. And then that necessitated more lies and continued to lie. And
Laura, no, the judge cannot sentence him to the death penalty.
I said, where will it end? It's already ended for many who have heard you and concluded that it'll never end. But within your own soul, you have to deal with that. And I know you have to see Paul and Maggie during the night times when you're attempting to go to sleep. I'm sure they come and visit you. I'm sure.
Wow.
All day and every night.
I'm sure. And they will continue to do so. And reflect on the last time they looked you in the eyes.
He's like,
As
you have
looked
to
the
live
jury
what
in
you
the
did.
eyes.
You have to live with what you did.
I don't know person who's always been such a gregarious, friendly person and cause your life to be tangled in such a web, such a situation that yours have spun into. And it's so unfortunate because you had such a lovely family of such friendly people, and including you, and to go from that to this. You know, your license to practice law has been stripped away from you. You turned from lawyer to witness.
Defendant to
And
convicted
now
murderer.
have an opportunity to make your final appeal as an ex-lawyer. And it's almost, it's really surprising
Yes,
that you're waiving this right at this time.
it is.
And if you opt to do so, it's on you. You're not compelled to say anything,
He had no final argument
but
for
you have
the
the
court,
opportunity to do so.
which is
And I tell you again, I respect this court, but I'm innocent. I would never, under any circumstances, hurt my wife Maggie, and I would never, under any circumstances, hurt my son Pawpaw.
Well, and it might not have been you. It might have been
what?
the monster you become when you take 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 opioid pills.
The other version of you.
Maybe you become another person. I've seen that before. The person standing before me was not the person who committed the crime, though it's the same individual.
It's very fair.
We'll leave that at that. Before announcing sentence on these cases, with regard to all of the other
Much shorter sentence than
pending
I
cases,
expected.
are any of them here in Colleton, or I'm sure some of them are?
Yes, sir.
Half of them, or
Not even half.
I
They're
don't
all
have
over
that
the
in front of me,
place.
But there are a substantial number of charges here. There's some in Hampton,
They're-
Oxford, Beaufort.
they're in Beaufort, Hampton.
Allendale.
Fucking indictments everywhere.
Maybe others I'm not thinking of right now.
They're
we
literally
might have worn out
everywhere.
our welcome here in Colleton.
Colleton's been great.
They have been, and I'll take this opportunity to thank Sheriff Hill and all of the court officials and really everyone I've met and dealt with.
This
while
judge is
here
not
in
regularly
Colleton
sit in
County.
Colleton.
Been great. But without any delay, we're going to schedule some of the other matters. I know Mr. Harpootlian's scheduling is complicated, and you've sacrificed quite a bit to be able to be here defending Mr. Murdaugh, as well as the Attorney General's office, with all the other many things and obligations you have. And to be able to have the Attorney General here, Alan Wilson, for the period of time that he's devoted to being here, along with everyone else, it's been quite a sacrifice. But there are other victims whose cases deserve to be heard. And this case has jumped some of those other cases.
It's jumped almost all of the other cases.
Perhaps jumped it because of this
Constitutional
case
right not to
resulting
waive
in
time.
an assault on the integrity of the judicial system in our state, law enforcement in our state. Even during this trial, the law enforcement have been maligned for the past 5 or 6 weeks
That's true.
by one who had access to
All the privilege.
the wheels of justice,
Yep.
to be able to deflect the investigation. And as the evidence is pointed out in this case, the looming storm that Mr. Waters talked about,
He said
I can just
deflect
imagine on that day, June 7th,
the investigation.
when a lawyer is confronted and confesses to having stolen over $500,000 from a client. And he has a tagger like Mark Tinsley on his tail, pursuing
Mark Tinsley sitting in
Discovery.
court.
in the case involving the death of Mallory Beach. And having a father, for the most part, on his deathbed. I could imagine or really can't imagine. But I know it had to have been quite a bit going through your mind on that day. But amazingly, to have you come and testify that it was just another ordinary day.
I still think for him it was, because he was
My
that
wife and son and
comfortable
I were out just enjoying life.
lying.
Not credible, not believable. You can
don't know.
convince yourself about it, but obviously you have the inability to convince anyone else about that.
Ooh.
So if you made any such arguments as a lawyer, you would lose every case like that. Cases you will never have an opportunity to argue anymore, except perhaps your own as you sit in the Department of Corrections.
Oh my.
Anything further?
No, sir.
All right, Mr. Murdaugh, I sentence you to the State Department of Corrections on each of the murder
Consecutive?
indictments
Life,
in the murder of your
I imagine.
wife, Maggie Murdaugh. I sentence you for the term of the rest of your natural life for the murder of Paul Murdaugh, whom you probably love so much. I sentence you to prison for murdering him
Wow.
for the rest of your natural life. Those sentences will run consecutive.
Life plus life.
Under the statute involving possession of a weapon during a violent crime, there is no sentence where a life sentence is imposed on other indictments. That is the sentence of the court, and you are remanded to the State Department of Corrections.
That sentencing lasted
And
under a
officers
half an
may
hour.
Carry forth on the imposition.
I am very surprised that no one but Alex spoke, and that when Alex spoke, all he said was, "I'm innocent. I would not hurt my wife. I would not hurt my son." We hear the defense saying, Your Honor, they've got other cases
sir.
to schedule.
Yes, sir.
The judge did not hold back what he had to say about this case. That is absolutely their right. That is what they do at sentencing. This judge, again, is almost riding circuit like old school judges to cover all of these cases. Instead of bringing all the cases to one courthouse, they're bringing one judge to all of them. We heard the judge talk about how he had cases where Alec appeared in front of him in the past. They did not move to recuse this judge. They did not move to move this case into a different jurisdiction for Alec's trial. And I just wonder if Alec thought that his family's influence would be what carried the day in this case. The judge said that Alec's family had access to the wheels of justice after saying that they controlled justice in this area for almost 100 years. He's not wrong. Let's see what they're going to put on the
Before we
record.
adjourn, an order was issued concerning maintaining the juror's identity being anonymous. That order was issued, and for the most part, it's been complied with,
For the most,
except for the jury leaving the courtroom yesterday, or not the jury, but the defendant leaving the courtroom while the jury is still seated.
yep.
Protecting the identity of the jurors is certainly extremely important during the course of a trial to ensure that no one makes contact with the jury or attempts to influence the
The
jury.
camera pan.
Jurors have a right to continue that privacy beyond their jury service. but they're not obligated to do so. And it would not surprise me if jurors choose to come forward and to speak, and they're encouraged to do so if that is their desire. I have no problem whatsoever with the jurors unmasking themselves and speaking freely with the media, because they have undergone a life-changing experience, and, as it relates to many of them. And some of them are here now, and I want them to know that should anyone attempt to harass them or annoy them, please let me know and I will address the issue. Secondly, there's a complaint now regarding the posting of autopsy photographs,
What?
photos that came from within the courtroom. It's based on the direction of the photographs. It did not come from the audience, came somehow from within the well of the court. The parties have requested an investigation of that.
Yes.
I have my hands full doing my job, and I don't attempt to conduct any investigations beyond the conducting of a trial.
Well, the court staff can.
But to the extent that law enforcement
They can. Yep.
decides to review that, it would be a responsibility of law enforcement. Yes. And
People deserve dignity, and leaking photos, particularly autopsy photos, for what
of
purpose?
course, one of the reasons
Other
we
than the internet's curiosity, it's
sought
not
to
okay.
seal graphic photos
And those should stay sealed.
because the parties have a right to privacy and
Yes.
a right to
Dignity.
those matters not being publicly disclosed. If anyone has heard about the recent settlement that Kobe Bryant's, another sports analogy, Kobe Bryant's
Yes.
wife just made with Los Angeles County and others out there over certain disclosures of information
The
involving the death
disgusting disclosures
of Kobe Bryant.
of photos from the crime scene.
Liability
Well,
can be
the accident
substantial.
scene.
And
Carlton County
it's
doesn't
a
want no
risk
part
for
of
the
that.
most part.
I didn't have
that's
Kobe
not
Bryant on my
worth
bingo
taking.
chat either.
So we'll let everyone judge themselves accordingly within that. with
Carlton
that
County
regard.
doesn't want none of that. Millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Aside from all that, our business is done here in Colleton County. And I get to use my gavel one or few times during this trial and order that court be adjourned. Sine die.
Law nerds, we are adjourned. We are adjourned. That's not true. We're gonna stay here and answer your questions. There has to be a balance. It's like Poot laughing with the AG and Creighton Waters just basically sums up what a criminal case is like. These attorneys might not like each other all that much. They really might not. But at the end of the day, they still have to work together on a lot of other cases. And we've heard that the judge intends to push those cases along forward. I am not done covering this case. I have been covering this case since the roadside incident, and will continue covering this case now that Alec has been convicted of murder. There are a lot of other cases that need to go forward. So, I don't know. Does it strike anyone strange that they're all hugging each other? It's not unusual in a criminal court that the attorneys, even when they fight hard on the case in the court, that they do genuinely keep a level of respect and collegiality to each other. And I think the attorneys all know what a loss this is personally for Jim Griffin. So it's not strange to me. For some, it might be. It's part of practicing law, especially in a jurisdiction where everybody knows everybody. So it doesn't surprise me, but I know that there's some that are surprised by what has happened in this case and will continue to be. I don't know if we will see a press conference from the defense. We might. We are seeing Philip Barber. I think he is one of my favorite attorneys from this entire trial from either team. I think Barber was defense level appropriate snarky without being over the top. I thought he was very, very smart. His questioning was good. He actually listened. To the questions and responded. I quite liked his questioning. I'm not surprised they put him on all the technological things. And I imagine in these cases, we will see more from him. And I hope that we do. If other cases go to trial, I hope that we see more from him. The only question is, if they try the financial crimes, will they bring up the murder convictions? I don't know. Maybe. Probably. Could they not? All right. Let us get to questions. I am truly quite surprised how fast that sentencing went. I really thought we would hear impact statements from Buster, from John Marvin. Maybe after testifying, they said all that they had to say. I'm shocked that Alec Murdaugh had very little to say. No arguing with the court. No arguing with the court at all. No advocating really for himself other than to maintain his innocence. The court wasn't buying any of that at all. And the court very clearly said that they did not believe Alec Murdaugh, that the jury did not believe Alec Murdaugh, and that he could no longer continue to lie to get out of this case. It is such an absolute waste. And for those of you that feel just heavy, no matter which way you wanted the verdict to go, yeah, you're right. It is heavy. And watching criminal trials from start to finish, especially if you've not been that interwoven with the criminal system in the US, even when there's a conviction, it doesn't feel like resolution because there is so much done. Thank you for the mods who said there's a defense presser in 30 minutes. Y'all, should we just stay live and cover the defense press conference? I feel like we just need to do that together. I'll answer questions. 30 minutes will go by in 7 seconds, and we'll just do it together. I feel like that's the only reasonable option. Can y'all make it? Do y'all have time? Can y'all make it? We'll just stay here. We'll just stay here and do that. Thank you to the mods. Just send a link. Just send a link. All right. We're just going to stay here for the press conference afterwards. If you guys want to stay in the loop with me, now's the time to remind you about lawnerdalert.com. We have again bumped our system so that these will go out to you faster on the email. Last night, we had some hiccups, sadly, with the texts going out, the emails. We sent them out as fast as we could. The media got like a 3-minute heads up on, I think there's a verdict. So I was scrambling to go live. But we will continue to keep you in the loop with things like videos, podcasts, new merch, the next trial we're covering, and decide that as a group. So don't forget to go sign up. Email list, free. We're working on a better method of notification. We're just building our own notification method. Once we have that done, we'll let you know. We're just doing it ourselves. Can we watch the juror interview? Oh, maybe. Maybe we can. We can go find that. Let me see if it's up on YouTube. I want to watch the courtroom clear out, and I'm going to answer some questions. I saw some really good ones. I thought today would be so much longer, says KO Hop in the chat. I thought so too. I very much thought so too. Ah! I feel assaulted. My ears cannot. I want to see. There we go. I want to continue to see the courtroom. I'm going to turn the volume down here too, so that doesn't happen again. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yes, please. All right. We'll do all the things here together. We do live here. Look, we have lived here for a month together. Don't worry. We'll travel to another state and find somewhere to live. We need to cover, and I will put this up in the member spaces too, but we are going to cover something lighter next week for Coffee and Cursey Words. I'm going to make sure that you all get the connect the dot sheets so that we can all do our connect the dots together. We'll cover some lighter Supreme Court parody cases. then we will get back into covering Idaho. There's a lot that's come out in Idaho, a lot that's come out in Girardi. I'm not sure what that tree is going to do today. All right, well, hopefully it just goes that way if it has issues. Today's a windy day. We're going to keep covering the Murdaugh case and others. So let's get to that. Question, will Idaho trial be filmed live? I do not know how they've decided to stream it. Right now, they have played it on delay. So will there be video of Idaho? Yes. How it will be presented to us, we depend. You want to watch an empty court? It's not empty. I want to see who's talking to each other. This is a very big deal. Who's talking to who is a very big thing in a case. A very, very big thing. So I want to see who the AG's talking to. I want to see who the court staff's talking to. I want to see who's talking to everybody. It's how you really get to know what's going on in a jurisdiction. So Eat Drink, thank you for the super chat. I'm sorry for this experience. And just to share with all the law nerds, my mom was Eat Drink shared a super chat saying my mom was killed by her husband when I was 10. It's been over 30 years. There is not enough words to explain the impact of murder decades later. You become a mom yourself. Yep. A new layer of the impact unveils, and your kids never know her as a grandma. Yeah. And that's when we talk about the impact of this case and the impact that this has in your life, there are ripples. And there are a lot of ripples of the impact of this case. A lot of ripples. And I know that this case is going to still raise questions. I still have questions. Do y'all still have questions? This case is going to raise questions. It's raised a lot of criticism. It's raised questions about how SLED did their investigation. There will continue to be questions about that. Do I think SLED could have done more? Yes. Do I have questions about their investigation? Yes. But what did the court say about that? He said that Alec deflected the investigation. Isn't that an interesting choice of words? Deflected the investigation. Let's go see if we have those clips from GMA. And then we will get to questions as well. Hold on. I don't know if those are up on YouTube yet. We're just gonna lean into not being monetized. It's fine. We lean into that most days. Closing arguments underway. No videos. It is not up on YouTube yet, which means it is going to be very, very hard to share together and probably only audio only if we have to grab it from one of the traditional players, and that is not going to work. So when we have the ability to grab that off of YouTube, we will, but we're going to wait for the defense press conference and answer questions. So with that, let's go to questions, yours, mine, ours, and get through it. So what evidence do you feel was the nail in the coffin that sealed his guilty verdict? By the way, one of the jurors did an interview on GMA this morning. He said they just wanted to be done with the trial. I don't doubt that this jury just wanted to be done. Alec testifying. I think Alec testifying is the thing that made it easier for this jury to find a guilty verdict. Him lying about being at the kennels is a big deal because when you look at a circumstantial case, you've got to put those puzzle pieces together. Circumstantial evidence, and people can disagree with me all they want, but what the law says is circumstantial evidence versus direct evidence. The jury gives it the same weight. Evidence is evidence, whether it be direct or circumstantial. A lot of murder cases are circumstantial. Why? Because the people who would have seen it are dead. So with that, this circumstantial case builds on, I think, opportunity and means. The defense did not present a competing expert with regard to tool marking analysis. They did a brutal cross-examination, I thought, with regard to tool marking. But at the end of the day, if the jury believes these were family guns, then who else had the means? The prosecution argued it. What, somebody just showed up? The defense tried to say, vigilantes or a drug cartel or whatever it was, that got objected to during closing. What, showed up, didn't bring guns, hoped to find Maggie and Paul there at the same time when Maggie had been at Edisto that morning. Hoped that they were there, both at the same time, but Alec wasn't there at the same time at that exact moment. And this The defense did not, though they gave a notice of alibi, meaning they were going to present that Alec was somewhere else at the time that the crimes happened. After he was caught on the kennel video and his voice was identified by so many, he couldn't put in a notice of alibi. He couldn't put in his alibi, even though they told the court that they would be presenting an alibi defense, meaning he was somewhere else at the time. It could not have been him. And the court brought it up. So what was the nail in the coffin? Truly, Alec testifying, but he wouldn't have had to testify if it weren't for the kennel video. If it weren't for the kennel video, I don't think this case gets brought. I probably wouldn't have brought the case. No, that's not accurate. I would not have brought the case anyway. I think it's a very difficult circumstantial case. Very difficult. But this state brought it. It is their jurisdiction. They get to decide what kind of cases they bring and when they bring them. And that is what they did. Should we put our belongings in short-term or long-term storage? Victor, man, short-term storage will work. We can we'll just reconvene and crash here, and then we'll figure out where we go next. Jennifer Brown said, good morning. Good morning. Nell, I've enjoyed your coverage of the trial and your commentary. Thank you so much for the compliments. I'm going to try to get to the questions. First, I always appreciate the compliments. I'm a content creator. I appreciate the compliments. I truly do. And we will get there. Good morning, Law Nerds. Question, could they still try to charge him with Gloria's death or a crime about stealing her children's money? Moo boy moo. They have charged her with crimes. They have charged him with crimes connected to stealing Gloria Satterfield's money. The Satterfield family has said that they do not believe the death of Gloria Satterfield is suspicious, though a investigation has been opened into that. Will they charge him? Alec wasn't on the property at the time. Paul was and Maggie was, and Paul and Maggie are both gone. So unless they have evidence that he somehow knew that something improper happened and covered it up after the fact, it would be very difficult. I don't know if we will see anything connected to the death of Gloria Satterfield, but I think we will see we are seeing a prosecution connected to the finances with regard to Gloria Satterfield. So we are seeing that happen. Give me just 1 second. I'm gonna just, all right. Let us continue on. Thank you so much for that, Moo Boy Moo. But yes, I don't think with the death, I do think we will see the finances continue. The big question is, do those all go to trial? Ms. Pa in the chat said, question, what is life without parole? It means that there is no opportunity for you to get a reduced sentence. You are serving the rest of your natural life, as they language it in South Carolina. Thank you for all the knowledge and humor you bring. I don't always have money to donate. You don't have to. I just want to say, for all the law nerds in the chat, I completely understand things are not easy. They have not been easy. Please know that watching, subscribing to the channel, liking the videos, leaving a comment, engaging with it, sharing it with someone else tremendously supports the channel. It tremendously supports the channel. So what you can do is what you can do. And I appreciate the support in any way. And thank you. I don't expect or ever expect super chats, and I do try to make sure I answer questions from members, questions from super chats, and questions from the chat as best as I can. Hannah Cole in the chat says, does everyone have to vote guilty for him to be guilty? Yes. It has to be by a unanimous verdict. Postcards from protest. Thank you for all the knowledge. You're welcome. So that's what it is. I appreciate how much work goes into what you do. Thank you. It is, and I love it. It's work, but it's fun work. And I'm highly motivated by fun and snacks. Good morning, Emily. I love you. You're a gift. Thank you so much. Ashley Bell, could the jurors' claims about when they decided be used in an appeal, since they aren't technically supposed to decide until deliberations? I will have to go back and look at what was said. So it depends. Kristen said, I picked up some Dunkin' Donuts and some coffee after my 14-hour day yesterday. That is a long day. Glad you are here. Austin said, motion to have Dr. B come on another members only live. Okay, I watched previous lives last night till 3 a.m. and you two are so entertaining. The Wall of Shame. Oh yes, the boat cruise. Yes, and Jungle Juice stories. I s- ugh, I I still I have a visceral reaction to Jungle Juice. The boat cruise was an absolute mess. My um my friend Chris, who is my right hand, who is my producer today, um was there for the boat cruise. What makes a sentence concurrent versus consecutive? Z, it's a great question. Consecutive means one after the other. Concurrent means at the same time. So if somebody got, you know, 10 years and then additional 10-year sentences or less concurrent, they serve them all at the same time. So it's multiple sentences on multiple counts, all served at the same time. Consecutive sentence means you have to finish this one first and then you do that one next. So life plus life consec means you are never getting out of custody. Ever. It is life. Once you get to life plus life consecutive, it is a signal about how the court feels about the case, about how the community feels about the case, about the impact the case had on the community, the horrificness of the case for the victims. It's a statement. In California, sometimes you will get sentences that are hundreds of years plus life, plus life, plus life, because the court doesn't want to not sentence on one victim or the other when there are multiple victims. And we saw that in the Brooks case where the court was like, I am sentencing you. It's a life sentence, but I am sentencing you to time on each and every victim. And the court took their time to say the names of every victim and sentence him for each victim. So he knows that you are hearing, that you are getting time for each of these victims. Thank you so much for the super chat, NSW. I appreciate it. Bubba got the chicken. Yep. Will he be serving in Gen Pop? That depends on him and them. He's probably going to be back and forth between prison and local custody because of all the cases he has. So he's going to do both. Also, we binged. For those of you that are new to the channel, when we gain 1,000 subscribers, the timer bings. And at some point, I connected the lights to it. I don't know how I did it. So now I can't disconnect it. So occasionally I'll be filming or I'll be in a live news appearance and the lights will flash and I just play it off and sit there and nobody ever mentions it. It's happened once or twice when I've been live. So with that, we did bing and we're going to keep getting through questions until we get to this press conference. Oh, it binged. Move your head. So yes, that is what that is. Give me 30 seconds. Give me 30 seconds. Hi. Judge Abby says hi, y'all. We had to check in on something, but Judge Abby says hello. Judge Abby's like, why are you streaming? Why I thought they're in deliberations. I'm like, Judge Abby, no, they convicted him yesterday. Judge Abby's in her own trial. They convicted him yesterday and they sentenced him today. She's like, what? Y'all have been such an integral part of the adventure that has been Friend Abby to Judge Abby. There is a members only live stream of when we are waiting for judicial results for Judge Abby. So if you are a newer member, if you've been gifted a membership, you can go through all of those past videos. When you become a member on YouTube, you get all of the past members only lives. Emily, can we do a side-by-side breakdown of the dog kennels with the video from the jury view and the diagrams from the trial so we can actually look at how it all went down, please? I don't know if that's helpful, but we can try. I will have to wait until we get the exhibitees from trial. And then maybe as the appeals kick off, we can take a look at that more closely. My heart aches for Buster, lost all of his family now. I feel for Buster too. And it's okay to have empathy and still have questions. It's totally fine. I do all the time, conflicting emotions. Good morning. Thank you. Jojo, Emily, I sent you a tweet with a link to the GMA interview for one of the jurors. Okay, let me go look at Twitter real quick. Thank you, research attorneys. The chat is bay for that. Let me go find it. Did you DM it or is it in my mentions? I'll go look. Let's look at DMs first. No, let me look at my ads. All right. We'll find it. Let's see. Oh, they do post those things on Twitter quite a lot. Let's see. I'm going to take a look real quick. Good morning, America. Thank you. A lot of you tagged me from GMA's website. Let's see if we can do this. Thank you, Jojo. And thank you to everyone else. Research attorney chat. Thank you. This is on Good Morning America's website. Juror speaks. Their website is very pink and blue today. Juror speaks out after Alec Murdaugh found guilty in the murder of wife and son. How did that happen so fast? All right, let's see what we can do. This is a ABC News exclusive. ABC, don't forget that you like me and that we're giving commentary. Let's just not be dicks about it. All right. Okay, let's go. That's not how you appropriately deal with copyright.
Vegas hotel.
Oh my goodness. We're gonna wait till this passes and we will get there. Good Friday morning, y'all. Hope y'all had a great weekend. I mean, everybody's gonna get a real break this weekend because we're done. I am shocked. I am shocked how fast this went. And I'm glad because after 6 weeks, I think I've lost the ability to actually speak coherent sentences. Put your phone down yesterday was a mistake.
Prominent attorney convicted of the double murder of his wife and son.
We're going to talk to the lead prosecutor in just a moment. First, Eva Pilgrim is at the courthouse in Walterboro, South Carolina.
Wait,
and
you're
Eva, you have an exclusive
interviewing
interview
everybody?
with one of the jurors.
Oh, this must have been from yesterday when the jurors were walking out.
Juror telling us what happened inside the deliberation room.
Okay, let's see.
Moments after that verdict was read, Alec Murdaugh turning back to his surviving son, mouthing, "I'm sorry, I love you." That once prominent attorney now convicted of murdering his wife and son.
I'm sorry, I love you. Interesting catch.
After 28
I
days,
didn't see
75 witnesses,
Buster's
and less
girlfriend
than
today.
3 hours of deliberation, the jury finding Alec Murdaugh guilty of killing his wife Maggie and son Paul.
Guilty, 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 guilty.
Murdaugh appearing emotionless as the unanimous verdict was read. His surviving son Buster, who testified in support of his dad, putting his head in his hands.
Janelle, I will answer
the
that
defense asking for a mistrial
after we
but
listen
the
to this.
judge standing firm.
The jury has now considered the evidence for
Well,
a
I mean, they had
significant
to.
period of time, and the evidence of guilt is overwhelming, and I deny the motion.
The disgraced attorney then taken out of the courtroom. Now, in an ABC News exclusive, juror Craig Moyer breaking his silence
And given his
revealing how
full
the jury
name.
came to their decision.
Okay.
When you first got in the room, you took a vote.
It was 2 not guilty,
Really?
1 not sure, and 9 guilty.
What was your
They took an initial straw vote and they were almost at guilt then. Ted Mag in the chat asked, is that a cash grab? News does not pay for interviews like this. So the news does not pay for interviews like this. So some jurors after 6 weeks are just going to want to vote, but it looks like they were almost at guilt on their first vote, which how many of them were already at guilty is very interesting. All right, let's continue.
vote
Guilty.
from the start?
Yes.
Moyer says it didn't take long to get everyone on the same page.
We started deliberating, going.
The fact that they did not say it did not take long to get everyone singing from the same sheet of music is such a colossal opportunity missed, and I am so sad about it. Sadder than I should be, but this has been a very long trial. Singing from the same sheet of music. Sorry.
Through the evidence. Everybody was pretty much talking. And about 45 minutes later, after all our deliberating, we figured it out.
So it took basically 45 minutes for you guys to come to a decision.
Probably about 45, maybe an hour.
That's really fast.
Yeah, the evidence was clear.
The jury found that the evidence was clear, more clear than the internet did, but the internet isn't judging the facts. They are judging the facts, which means at the end of closing, they knew what they wanted to do when they went back into the jury room. And that is not unusual, that as the judge is reading those jury instructions, they're like, yep, that it is what it is.
He says it was this piece of video featuring Alec's voice at the crime scene moments before the murders that convinced him.
Here's
The kennel video. The kennel video. The kennel video. For this jury, it's the kennel video. I'm not surprised. I'm going to play that again.
It took basically 45 minutes for you guys to come to a decision.
probably about 45, maybe an hour.
That's really fast.
Yeah, the evidence was clear.
He says it was this piece of video featuring Alec's voice at the crime scene moments before the murders that convinced him.
Hear his voice clearly. And everybody else could too.
Alec finally admitting it was him for the first time a year
Well,
and a half after the murders.
When he said it was him, were you surprised?
Admitting it was him on the kennel video.
I was very surprised.
Why?
That was his only savior right there.
For some people, it's so hard to understand how a husband, especially a father, would kill their own son. What made you so sure that he had?
His responses, how quick he was with the defense and his lies.
They believed the state's manufactured alibi theory of the case. How fast he was with the lies with law enforcement, which means the jury didn't need all the financial information and they could have done a lot less of it. How easily he lied and how fast he was to say, I did this, I wasn't there, it's the boat case. And I see a lot of you are saying, yep, that's for me. On the same, the chat, a lot of you in the chat, not all of the chat, a lot of you in the chat are singing from the same sheet of music as this juror.
Steady lies.
Did you feel like he was a liar?
A good liar, but not good enough.
Moyer
Whoa.
also not convinced by moments like this. Alec appearing emotional on the stand.
Appearing
What did
emotional.
you think when Alec Murdaugh took the stand?
I didn't think much of him,
Really?
really. I didn't see any true remorse or
Real emotion.
any compassion or anything.
Even though he cried a lot on the
He
stand.
never cried.
He never cried.
Oh.
What do you mean by that?
All he did was blow snot.
Did you not see
Oh.
tears?
No tears.
How did you know he wasn't crying?
Because I saw his eyes.
He was sitting
I
close
was
enough to
just
see
close
it.
to him.
Moyer says he also did.
All right, y'all, we're going to take a break from this to make sure that that press conference isn't starting, because that is what I am hearing. Oh, and it is. So we don't want to miss that. Let me run it back so we're not missing the press conference as it's getting started. It looks like law enforcement is starting, which is interesting for me. Hold on. Let me pause that and make sure that we have that first. All right, give me 1 second. Let's pull that up. We only missed the first few minutes. It looks like this is from SLED. All right, let me back that up. All right, let's go there now. I'm going to
Okay.
WFLA.
Give it just a minute.
All right. We ran it back, so we don't have to wait. Yay for us. I don't know what they're giving it a minute for.
Everybody give me a thumbs up. Mark Keel, and I'm chief for the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division.
This is the chief of SLED. I'm going to turn this up just a little bit. And I'm going to bump the speed just a touch so that we catch up to live. Thank you, chat, for
Otherwise known as SLED.
letting me.
For those of y'all in the local media, you know I don't do very many press conferences. I've been chief of SLED for 12 years,
You've been dragged through the mud, so
and I've only done 2.
I get it.
The last one I did was in June of 21 to talk about significant violent crime that's just been unprecedented in our state. But today it's important for me to speak out. It's important because of the victims in this case. It's important because Maggie and Paul cannot. I want to make one thing clear to everybody. There are no winners today.
It's facts.
I have a truly humbling responsibility as being chief of SLED. I lead a dedicated and professional group of investigators, forensic scientists, and support personnel. A staff that work day in and day out for days just like today to bring justice for victims. And today is not the end. It's the next step in a long road to justice for every person who has been victimized by Alex Murdaugh.
I appreciate that they say
Alex
one
Murdaugh
step.
has now been rightfully found guilty of murdering his wife Maggie and Paul. He was found guilty because he was guilty. And as one of the witnesses said, Paul was a little detective. This case serves notice to anyone who aided or assisted Alex Murdaugh in committing any crime that justice will be sought. This was an incredible effort by SLED, our local and federal partners, and our partners at the Attorney General's office. And I want to thank Attorney General Wilson and all of his prosecutors, paralegals, and all of his support personnel as well.
Emily Outdoors,
They
I
did a
agree.
fantastic job.
The AG was a
The agents and
jovial
prosecutors
press
who worked
conference.
this case
It
have
was odd.
sacrificed countless moments from
heavy.
their own families to ensure that a person responsible for the murders of Maggie and Paul was fairly tried and brought to justice. The people who work this case do it because they are called to serve. They do it to bring a voice to the voiceless. And they're dedicated public servants. And for that, I'm grateful. SLED agents have worked tirelessly for the past 21 months to ensure justice was served for Maggie and Paul. It is impossible for most people to understand the countless hours of hard work that went into this case. Time away from families, missed birthdays, missed holidays.
It
And
really
it
is
is all
tireless.
done under constant scrutiny, constant pressure. I want these folks standing behind me and around me to know how incredibly proud I am of them as chief of SLED. I believe firmly in this criminal justice system that we have.
We still have questions about
And
the
I
grand
believe
jury,
in
though,
the rights
sir.
of an accused to have a fair trial.
We do, though.
That is why I have remained silent from beginning this case until now. Again, today, I'm here to provide a voice for Maggie and Paul. I'm here to recognize the heart-wrenching journey that family and friends of Maggie and Paul have endured. And I'm here to support and thank again this incredible team of agents, forensic scientists, support personnel that work at SLED and that worked on this case. Yesterday and today, justice has been served. Thank you.
I think there's more the forensic agents could have done. I'm surprised they didn't mention anything about the investigation for Stephen Smith. And we will see if the defense attorneys come out and speak. I'm going to zoom this and see if they take the podium. The podium is still set up. And we will see. It looks like WFLA is still waiting for that. I've seen some of you mention that Peter Targos, lawyer, will be on WFLA later. I know he's local there and has done that. I always love seeing incredible legal commentators like Peter on local media because I think it brings a realness to it, not just a 30-second sound clip. And I always appreciate that. It looks like they're breaking down. It looks like some of the outlets are breaking down the presser. So I'm going to keep an eye and see what happens with this and see if they do break down that presser. But it looks like they are breaking down the podium. So though SLED spoke, I will keep an eye on this to see if we get the defense having anything to say. All right, let us continue. Hey, look at that. We're number 2 on live trending. Thanks, y'all. We're going to go back to the juror speaking out after a few more super chats. Why no questions from journalists to SLED on that conference? Because SLED, I bet, wasn't going to take them. SLED knows what people want to think. He might have been switching a cord. That's very fair. My cords are real fucking pesky. I'm gonna keep monitoring it. I've had my fair share of pesky mic cords over here. I think I've done 4 this year. I'm just glad I live in Nashville, where you can literally get anything at a Guitar Center because everybody is involved in audio in some way. But I'm glad that this was a more solemn interview. I really think, I don't know, the jovial feel of yesterday's interview was very odd to me because I'm fucking bothered by it. Why no questions from journalists? I don't think SLED wants to be questioned anymore about their investigation. I think there are questions. It shouldn't feel like prosecutors are doing a victory lap after a case. There are no winners. All it does is put someone behind bars and away from their family. And that's what we're already seeing. And that was going to happen anyway. But I think one of the things, and there are a few things that bother me about the case, but I think one of the things about this case is that it felt like the prosecutors wanted to win so badly. And that is not a good position to be in as a prosecutor. It has to be about justice. It has to be about integrity. It cannot be about winning. And when it is about winning, you get overreaching. And that is a huge problem. A huge problem. And that in the sample closing that I gave yesterday, that was part of what I said. And I don't like that. I can see on the evidence presented how the jury got here. I can absolutely see it. But when you want to win and you have the power of the system behind you, you are at high risk to overreach, to come to wrong assumptions, to not look at the email that says there's confirmatory testing that shows that what's on the shirt is not in fact blood. And that is a problem that also should be evaluated after the end of this case, even though he was convicted, and it will be evaluated on the appeal. Alec Murdaugh is going to be in custody either way and would have been on the financial crimes. So we'll see what happens. All right, I'm keeping that presser up because it looks like others are going to come out. We'll go back to the rest of what the juror said. I am not surprised that that juror said that the kennel video was a very big deal for them. So let's get to that. EDB, I ordered me one of the Free People cozy kimonos because you looked so adorbs in it. It is my favorite item of clothing. It is literally my favorite item of clothing. I love my Lawnard hoodies, but sometimes, especially when the hair is like this, you can't pull a hoodie up and down over your head. Sometimes you just need a blanket with armholes. I love it so much. Not sponsored, never sponsored by that. Never been sponsored. Don't care, love it. Saw somebody in it, bought it, was like, it's the greatest. Changed my entire method of travel. It's so perfect for plane travel because then you got kind of like a blanket, but it's also got armholes. So if you get hot, it's real easy. Love it. Love it so much. I was surprised they didn't have party hats at the post-verdict statements, and didn't it feel gross? Didn't it feel gross? It felt gross. I didn't like it. I just didn't like it. It felt, it shouldn't feel like a victory lap because, again, the ideal outcome in this case is Maggie and Paul don't get murdered and nobody's trying a double homicide case. That's the ideal outcome. Alec Murdaugh was going down on the financial crimes. But that's where we're at. All right, I need to answer questions. I'm going to wait for this press conference to start. It looks like they were, in fact, swapping out cables. I got excited too soon that we were done with press conferences. That's on me. All right. Weird Gal said, I don't find it unrealistic that the jury was able to come to a verdict quickly. They couldn't write anything down. Isn't that part of Isn't that the point of not taking notes, so as to not stay stuck on a point of trial? I think that's a really fair perspective and helpful perspective. No, I will go back to the juror interview after chat. I see you. I will go back to the juror interview after the defense presser because it looks like they are anticipating they are coming out shortly. So I will go back to it. I just want to make sure we don't miss the defense coming out because I really do want to hear what they have to say. I wonder how much the jury's visit at Moselle impacted their verdict. I wonder too. The kennels seem so remote, like someone would have had to know they were there. And that's part of the problem of not going at night. If the lights were on, would somebody have seen it? They're going to get a sense for it, kind of, but not a full sense for it. Jury views can go either way. And I will go look. I know there are side-by-sides of the Moselle property. It looks like people are coming out the doors. I know the side-by-sides at the Moselle property make it very clear that bike wasn't there in advance. So while I don't think the clothes in the window are staged, I have questions about the rest of it. Paige says he's a bad guy being put behind bars, but I don't believe he committed these crimes. Someone did, though. Insufficient justice for Maggie and Paul. I don't think you're alone in that. Amy said, not sure how long I can watch this. Is very upsetting. Would be okay if judge hired AM. What? Would be okay if judge hired AM and I is guilty, but through a fair trial. Thank you for the input, Amy. I'm not quite sure what you meant, and I apologize. Drinking my coffee in my objection hearsay mug. Cheers. Thank you for covering the case. You're welcome, Jordan. The gift heart said, really important question. What coffee maker do you have? I share it on Instagram kind of regularly. Maybe I'll just, oh my God, it's so windy. I share it on Instagram regularly. I have a Jura caveat. They are not inexpensive, but they last forever. So it is a Jura. I wait until they go. I wait until there is a sale at either like a Macy's or a Sur La Table or what have you, and get them then. Wait until there is a sale or a coupon code or what have you. But I have a Jura. It's great and I love it. In South Park, where will we go? What will we do? But where will we go? But what will we do? We'll go back to South Park is where we're going to go next because that case is going to be real interesting. That was this week's podcast. Mike, you are welcome. Thank you for the super chat. Just done with verdict asleep yesterday, then at work. It's wild. No Bubba slander. My girlfriend bought me a Law Nerd merch for our 1-year anniversary. I feel so understood. I think I should keep her. I think so too. Kathleen, does Dr. B have his own theme music for when he enters the room? Oh, he should. He absolutely should. Amy Lynn, judge unfair. I don't think this judge was unfair. I know there's people who disagree with me. They didn't move to recuse this judge for any reason. This judge was consistent in his rulings. I know there are people who disagreed, but I didn't see anything there are things I saw the judge do that I'm like, I don't know if I would have done it that way. That's going to happen in literally every single case, and it doesn't mean the judge is unfair. So I understood this judge and I understood the consistency. Do I like that the judge was like, I'm not going to rule on anything till there's an objection? It's like, but Your Honor, that's what like motions in limine pretrial are for. So could you do that before? We'll see. But this judge also quite flexed that the state Supreme Court has upheld him multiple times. Riley, I know it is. It definitely, you can, knowing that there's so much weather today and knowing that it's the anniversary of the 2020 tornado is a lot today. A lot of you have severe weather, so all of you stay safe. Eugene, can you say hi to my American mom, Maria? Hello, Maria. Emily, will you cover the Courtney OF case? I don't know yet. Maybe. I know it's going to trial soon. Will AM go to another prison now? Until the other cases, normally they will go to the state prison and then come back to local custody when they have trials going on. That depends. Have you one screen on Ryan Hall, y'all, on the other? Ryan Hall, y'all, is definitely what needs to be kept up with. I also have my Twitter up to Nashville Severe Weather. I love them on Twitter. They only cover a few counties right around Nashville. But if you are in those few counties right around Nashville, it's real freaking helpful. Greta said drugs were the immediate motive. Search Paul's pockets after he killed them. then frantically searched the house. I mean, he would have had to have cleaned up in there at some point. They never came back to the blood on the inside of Paul's pocket. Ever. It was weird. We need to bring the jury on soundboard, please. Yes, we do. Here for the truth said, my high school best friend is the production designer for the movie your son is watching. I love that movie so much. I love it so much. I love it so much. I think a lot of our chat loves the Leonardo DiCaprio, Baz Luhrmann, Claire Danes, Romeo and Juliet, because it's our life. All right. Let's see. Did you hear about the major issue in an airplane over Tennessee last night? I did not. I literally did this trial, took a bath, went to bed, got up and did more of this trial. And that is what I have done for like 6 weeks. So there are other things happening in the world, I am sure. Do I know what any of those are? Nope. The weather today is fuckery. I'm here for y'all, so I know the struggle. I'm not far from y'all, so I know the struggle. We're good. Thank you for everyone. I thought sentencing could take months. Cassie, let's talk about this because there's a couple questions about this. Somebody just walked into the courthouse with a whole giant drink cup holder from Starbucks. No pre-sentencing report ordered before sentencing. No. The federal system leans heavily into their reports, and you normally get months in between a conviction and sentencing. This sentencing is pretty set. The options are life and 70 years to life. There's not a lot that's going to happen. And because it is a death penalty eligible case, you generally know before going in that with a death penalty eligible case, if you are convicted and they are not seeking the death penalty, most judges will just sentence you to life. So there wasn't really much to discuss. It was going to be life. The only thing they're going to discuss is who's going to speak. And nobody wanted to. And they probably knew that beforehand too. Emily, may I get a tardy slip for work? Karen is tardy from work. She's on jury duty. I had to watch that Romeo and Juliet in high school 10 years ago. Oh gosh. Well, see, 10 years ago in high school is still much more recent in time than me. Every lawyer's 2 favorite words are "it depends." Attorney Tom would be proud of you. EDB. Here for years, it really is true because law is so fact specific. That's why you study case law in law school. You study case law in law school because you need to see the different fact scenarios play out. It's why experience, especially in the field of law, matters so much. You need to see different fact scenarios play out because it strengthens your ability to say, I could see it this way, I could see it that way. And lawyers, in most cases, even when their personal beliefs are one way or the other, can say, I can see it this way and I can see it this way. I might believe here, but I can see this and I can see this, because it's what you have to do to be effective. Question, where again did you find the shawl with the arms? It is the Free People Cozy something Komodo. Sorry. The tree outside my window is kind of like, instead of like this, it's like that. So you're going to see me going like this all morning long. All right. Nobody has walked out of this courthouse. I am keeping an eye on it. Chat, you'll let me know. Let's finish running out this video with the juror so we can be done with that. Emily, I saw that Romeo and Juliet in theater in high school, graduated 2000, just a few years behind me. Really? What year did that movie must have come out after I graduated. It's so good though. I fucking love that movie. Holy poop, we watched it in freshman English in 97. Chris, we have been denied by our high school experience. They should have let us watch the Romeo and Juliet with Baz Luhrmann and Claire Danes. We all watched it anyway because it was so good. All right. Jules in the chat says my sister lives in Murfreesboro. So she is experiencing the swirly too. Stay safe. We are. Do not worry about that. If I need to go, I will. I've only had tornado emergencies cut my stream once. So we're not going to let the swirly weather get the best of us today. Let's finish looking at what this juror had to say and get back to questions till the next press conference comes up.
Didn't buy the defense's argument.
I'm going to run it back 10 seconds. For those of you that just joined, a hi, welcome. Do the YouTube things at some point. A juror spoke to GMA. The kennel video was very important to them. And we are hearing the rest of what mattered to this juror that spoke to Good Morning America, presumably this morning or last night.
No tears.
How did you know he wasn't crying?
As I saw.
Oh, and he thinks that Alec Murdaugh wasn't crying on the stand. He was just blowing snot, is what he said. Let me gain this up a little bit. Which was what a lot of people said when they were looking at him. They're like, he's just blowing air out of his face.
True remorse or any compassion or anything.
Even though he cried a lot on the stand.
He never cried.
He never cried. What do you mean by that?
All he did was blow snot.
Did you not see tears?
No tears.
How did you know he wasn't crying?
Because I saw his eyes.
He's
I
like,
was this close to him.
Moyer says he also
saw
didn't
his
buy
eyes.
the defense's argument that Alec didn't have enough time to commit the crime and create an alibi.
oh,
The defense said there's no way he could have done all these things, clean everything up, get it all ready, and then go to his mom's and come back in that short amount of time.
I think there's just enough time.
All those factors
that's what matters.
leading the jury to hand over that guilty verdict.
If you really look at everything, it's all plain and clear.
they found it plain and clear.
And the judge
Look, the prosecution hopefully takes away from this that they didn't need to convolute this case with a week of financial crimes. The jury saw that this was clear. The prosecution could have made it more clear. The kennel video is the key to this case. And if they had started out with arguing, Alec Murdaugh only cares about Alec Murdaugh, no one else. He will do anything to preserve Alec Murdaugh. They could have done a little bit of the financial crimes just to go to the lying if Alec testified. The kennel video forced Alec's hand to testify. But then the defense went into all of Alec's character and how much he loved his family, and they would have been able to bring up the lying there. Okay, so these are the things he lied about. And go with the lying, the means, and the opportunity, and give a little bit of the financial crimes, but not run it back to 2000 whatever, and focus on the kennel video and the timeline. I don't think they had the timeline as clear as they did until they got that GM data in the middle of freaking trial. And maybe they wouldn't have gotten it if they hadn't done the financial crimes. The trial would have gone too fast. I don't know. Trials are dynamic and you never quite know.
delaying sentencing until this morning so that victims could make statements in court. And this morning, we will see Alec Murdaugh arriving to the courtroom in an orange jumpsuit. Guys.
Well,
Okay, Eva, thanks. That was a
more of a
fascinating
khaki.
interview. We're joined now by lead prosecutor Creighton Waters.
Oh,
Mr. Waters, thank you for joining us this morning. 28
Creighton's calling in remote. Busy an early morning for him.
days in the trial, 70 witnesses, yet only 3 hours to reach a verdict. How do you explain that?
The evidence was clear.
Well, I think I explained it with what you heard the jurors say. We presented a very compelling and strong case, and I think that it didn't take them long to figure this out. They looked him in his eyes, much as I've had the chance to do, and realized who this person really was. And I think that really was the final thing that led this jury to come to the right conclusion.
You finally did it. You started out, though, with 2 jurors saying not guilty, 1 juror not sure. Wasn't that video that made the difference?
Yes.
Absolutely, I think it was. That was something that the defendant could never account for. And I think, though, he was still hoping that that evidence wouldn't be as strong as it was. He initially claimed, because there was one young man who thought he heard him on the phone, and he said, well, he's got to be mistaken. I think he thought he could get around that. But as we continue to put up family and friends, people who were very close to him, none of whom who knew who he really was, it became very compelling, and I think that's what motivated him to try to take the stand and see if he could give one last closing argument to these jurors.
Well, that's what I wanted to
ask. As you
ask.
heard, though, it didn't work.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. Were you surprised he decided to testify?
Yes.
No, I thought that he would do it all along. I think that he's been able to.
Creighton, I imagine, is going to go into he's been able to talk his way out of everything his whole life, and Creighton has looked this person in the eye in court, and I think he knew. Well, he's saying that he knew that Alec would have to testify, I'm sure, because of that video. But it's like, no, I've looked him in the eye. I know who this person is. He thinks he can talk his way out of this. Did you think that of Alec's testimony? I'm going to put up a poll real quick. Do you, let's see. Did testify Let's see. How do we phrase the question? Did Alex testify because he thought he could talk his way out of it? If you think he testified for another reason, it's okay to say no. I just want to ask this question, and then we'll get to other reasons next. I'm going to ask this. Let's continue on with what Creighton has to say.
In this community, he's been able to talk his way out of accountability his entire life, and people like that are convinced in their own ability to do so. So the second the defense put in an exhibit in the case, I was pretty convinced he was going to testify. That's usually a pretty good indication.
You mentioned that he talked his way out of accountability his whole life. He was a skilled attorney. So what was your strategy going in on cross-examination?
Well, my strategy was to initially establish that and establish who he was. I thought it was very interesting that he would not even concede to these jurors that he was wealthy. And that was sort of the idea, was to get him talking about himself and about his life, but then to first of all, hammer home the financial aspects of this case and the many lies that he had told to people that trusted him, and then move into the specifics of his new story that he was now telling the world for the first time, at least publicly. And I think that's very compelling and ultimately was convincing to the jury.
Yeah, well, once you definitely establish that he's a liar, has been a liar for most of his career, that's really the kiss of death for a defense witness, right?
Well, defendant.
Well, I think it is, but it's not just being a liar. In this case, it was him being a liar about being at the scene with the victims just minutes before their cell phones went silent forever. And that is a very compelling lie. And of course, I made the argument to the jury, and the team did, and this was obviously a team effort, that, you know, what kind of reasonable father or husband would lie to law enforcement about such a crucial fact in that moment, and only one who really knew what had happened. But when you lie about being at the scene with the victims just minutes before the crime happened, that's pretty compelling evidence.
Are you now looking into the death of the Murdaugh's housekeeper?
Huh.
Well, I can't comment on any pending investigations. This thing that has been investigated by SLED and the South Carolina State Grand Jury, which I'm fortunate to lead, is far-reaching into a lot of different areas. I can't comment on any pending investigation.
Sentencing this morning, what do you hope to see?
Life.
I'm sorry, say again?
The sentencing is this morning. What do you hope to see?
Well, this morning I hope to see a just sentence from the judge. I think that we will have a short presentation because the judge has heard it all. I'm not going to comment on the specifics of sentencing because it hasn't happened yet. But I do think that in the end, we will have a just result for Maggie and Paul. Who, again, we cannot forget in all of this case, as long as it's gone on and as big as it's gotten, that's what this is really about. And thankfully, they had a voice yesterday when the jurors spoke.
Creighton Waters, thanks very much.
All right. And with that, that is the end of the GMA. And shush. That is the end of that. We are still waiting for a press conference. I've seen a number of you in the chat saying that has been determined. It will be held in about a half an hour. So we're just going to stay here until it is. I'm going to go look real quick at, the source of news, the Twitters, and go see what Avery has to say. Avery's going on NPR at 11:20, Murdaugh defense team press conference at 11:45. So we've got about a half an hour to finish answering your questions. We're just going to stay right here because, well, I'm a streamer and that's what I do. I love streaming. I don't normally stream breaking news, but this case moves so fast at the end there, after taking for fuck ever, at the end there, it was just like whoosh. So here we are. We live here today. We do. We live here today, and we've got a lot of questions to get through, so we're going to do that. Question, Safifi. How do they decide which trials will be live broadcast and which will not? Will Idaho be broadcast? It is court by court. The media outlets request access. Generally, Court TV sets up the cameras, though other outlets also have cameras that they set up in the courtroom and manage. So they request access to the court on trials they think will be of public interest or of significant public interest. And then the court either allows it or disallows it. In Idaho, right now, the court is allowing it to be recorded and then played later, but not streamed contemporaneously. I don't know how that will work going forward. The court seems to be very locked down about the Idaho case. So we will be covering that. I don't know how that will go just yet. So I'm going to keep an eye on how we cover that. And we're just going to roll with what the court allows. So right now, what the court is allowing is, what the court is allowing is the recording and then to re-air later. All the hearings that have been public, I have covered already. So I will continue covering them, but you can find those other hearings on my channel. Leanne said, my girlies are up watching you. Say hi to Lauren, Chris, Kathy, and Lala. Hello, girlies. Lola, hypothetical question. If Alec self-harms in prison, does he get the 10 million life insurance policy? I don't know if that life insurance is intact, if it has or does not have an exception to deal with that, but it's theoretically possible. I woke up at 5:30 a.m. every morning to be here with you in the Law Nerds. It's so early, Debbie. This was so early. It just felt so early. Debbie Heard was just a little later and no Fridays. Made it easier. EDB, you're amazing. Well, thank you. I will always take compliments. Are you surprised the verdict came back so fast? Yes, I thought they would go through Friday, but this jury had their mind made up. So, thank you from one attorney to another. You've done a great job breaking down the trial. Thank you. You are great on the tube, but would also be an awesome in legal education if you are not ready. I do guest appearances in legal education, but sadly, not more than that. It's a lot to maintain or to try to maintain both. Emily, good morning. What is your zodiac sign? So, I am a Taurus sun, Taurus moon. So there's that. Do we need rising signs too? Chat, let me know. Watching from AZ, and we have snow. Oh my God, there's like hail and snow and stuff in Southern California too. It's so wild. What is my husband texting me? Oh gosh. Yuck. Apparently my hair is clogged the sink. Thank you. Yes, you guys are like, yes. Yes. Do you really want to know? I will tell you. I am not surprised to tell you the things. Just give me a second. Let me answer a few more questions and we'll get back to that. My dad is a Taurus cusp. Oh, I would have answered that one. It went down. Okay. It came up, it went down. Chris is trying to catch your super chats. It's not easy to do. Do you guys want to guess my rising sign? Go ahead and guess my rising sign in the chat and then I'll tell you. I think that's way more fun. I saw a lot of social media folks saying, guess my height. I don't want you to guess my height. I always tell you what my height is, but you can go ahead and guess my rising sign. Yeah, snow in Southern California too. It's crazy. What happens if Alec comes forward after sentencing with proof that he hired the shooter, proof that he wasn't the shooter? It would have to go to the court and they would have to evaluate it. I love it. You guys are saying Pisces, Leo, Libra, Gemini, Virgo, Scorpio, Aries, Leo rising, Aries, Cancer, Virgo, ding, ding, ding. Alexis, Lonsbury. I am in fact a Virgo rising. Ding, ding, ding. So I love all the guesses. Oh yes. Taurus sun, Taurus moon, Virgo rising. All the things. Taki Chan also said Virgo. Raquel Neary also said Virgo. So yes, all of it. Desert Mom also said Virgo. I know I've talked about it before. So I see all the other Virgo risings in the chat. There we go. My dad is also a Taurus cusp. So if Alec came forward and was like, actually, it wasn't me, here's this alibi, it would create problems. It would go through the court. It would go through hearings. It would create a bit of a mess, but they would also have to evaluate it for veracity. I don't know if they would believe him. So in the chat, Jen Leonard said, earthy, earthy, earthy. Yeah. Yep. We are overly earthed up in here. And Misty said, I have a question. Could they yeet the whole case with Alec in appeals because everyone and anyone in this case knew each other with zero possibility of a fair trial? Misty, they didn't, from everything I've seen, they didn't ask for a change of venue. They didn't ask to have the judge recused. They didn't do the things that you would do because of that. So no, trials happen in small communities all the time. It is a reality of the community. So because everyone know each other, no, this jury process, they reached out to over 900 jurors to bring them in to try to find people who didn't know this case. Could they have extended that farther if they needed to? Yes. They also did pretty thorough jury questionnaires. So can Griff, Griffin, Poot or Putin Griff give impact statements for Alec Murdaugh? The attorneys can make a statement at sentencing, not an impact statement, but they can make a statement at sentencing. Jim is in such a weird spot because he technically could give an impact statement because he knows the victims as well, but didn't. But he's the attorney, so he can't. They could have made a statement and they did not. And we saw that. But yes, they could have. Luke asked, is Nancy Grace in the courtroom today? I didn't see, but I know has been broadcasting from outside the court. Why is Murdaugh in prison garb today rather than street clothes? He hasn't been sentenced and remanded to prison because he's been convicted. So he is in prison garb because he has been convicted. And they generally stop dressing people out in civilian clothes after they've been convicted. The jury is no longer present, so it's not a worry that the jury is going to see him in prison clothes and then be prejudiced against him because, oh, he's already in custody. He must this, or that. Impacted victims are scared to speak, in my humble opinion. Elisa, Tina, it might be. It might be, but it might be that everyone who wanted to say something said it on the stand because so many said it on the stand. Can they charge him with perjury too? I don't know if they will. I don't know if they will. I don't know if it's even worth it. Could they, in theory, on the statement that he wasn't at the kennels, maybe, but he admitted to lying in the police interviews, but he didn't lie on the stand, and those police interviews aren't under oath. So the lies on the stand, I think it would be difficult, and I don't know if it's helpful. Amanda said, can a juror talk to their therapist about the trial during the trial? Not supposed to, but the therapist, not supposed to. Not in terms of the trial, other than perhaps saying, I am on a murder trial and it's been really hard, and starting to process through that. But no, you can't talk about the specifics of the case with anybody. You can tell them you're on a trial, but no, it doesn't mean people don't. You're not supposed to. I am shook that not one person on either side wanted to speak. Helen, I agree with you. I am also surprised. Maybe they all said what they needed to say. Melissa said, do you think we will truly find out what happened during the murders? I think Alec told us. He said to Maggie's sister, whoever did this has been thinking about it for a long time. And he also said on the stand, whoever did this had hate in their heart for Paul Murdaugh. I think he told us. I feel like Buster knows he did it. He didn't seem surprised last night. He did not seem surprised. Agreed. He might have been practiced at being stoic because this family seems to take the do not respond, do not deny to heart. So maybe he's just practiced at being stoic, but I don't know. All right. Cameras are heading back to that presser. I don't know. We're hearing another 15 minutes. Not actually seeing from Twitter, but you know what I mean. Thank you for the well wishes for a great weekend. I will probably log off of the internet this weekend and play video games with my kids. Megan the Moon, do you think no one wanted to speak against him in a victim statement for fear of what his family could still do to them? Maybe. I think it's also a really hard position for Maggie's family because the unthinkable has happened, right? They've convicted him of murdering his wife and son. So if his family members were on the fence, and we know some of the law partners were on the fence, if they're on the fence about it, the jury has confirmed what they might have been suspecting, which is unthinkable. And it's unthinkable for those that are connected to the victims to think what their last moments were like. So to try to process all of that in a very short period of time and have something to say is different. Could we see these victims perhaps sending a letter to the court or speaking later? Maybe. Will we? I don't know. I just don't know. So let me go check. I'm hearing that there is, that's probably on there. Court TV Live is just outside of the press conference. But if there is somebody on their website, let me go look there and see. Because if there is another juror speaking, I am very interested to hear it. Let's see. Nope, I'm seeing talking heads. One of them's my friend, though. Hello, Philip Dubé. I see you. Up in the upper corner. I see you, sir. All right. Let's keep going. We used to try cases together. So they are going back. Let's see. Court TV is going back to the
Collin
live
County Courthouse.
with.
He's also the host, co-host of.
Let's see, with Eric Brand.
Cup of Justice.
He was struggling to find the
is,
name of that podcast.
Eric,
let's see what Eric has to
first of
say
all,
real quick.
A lot of people thought this is going to take days.
We're giving commentary on
possibly.
commentary.
Your
It's very
reaction to the
meta.
verdict, the speed of the verdict.
I want to see what Eric has to say.
First off, and then we've got some other
question.
questions.
Wasn't it one of his agents that lied to the grand jury? Michelle, I'm gonna talk about that in a second. I do want to talk about that more.
Similar to the jury in the producer's Broadway show, they didn't just find Alex guilty; they found him incredibly guilty, and they did it in just a very short period of time. It was, quite surprising. This trial turned out to be a referendum on Alex Murdaugh, not so much on the scientific evidence.
I am
on blood, DNA, or GSR, and then moved it to technological when it was with the phone mapping and OnStar, as well as the videos. When Alex took the stand, it just became a referendum on him, and he tried to pull off one last con job, and it didn't work.
Did not work at all. Your thoughts on
one last
Judge
con job.
Clifton Newman this morning, his interaction with the defendant, it was quite something.
I can't believe they came back this fast.
It was
either,
riveting.
Cassandra.
It was almost a medieval pronouncement of a sentence.
Interesting.
Judge Newman wasn't speaking all.
Yes, I'll be
only
covering
as
the
a
other cases.
judge. He was speaking as a wounded lawyer. He was speaking as a South Carolinian, and what Alex has done to our state and what Alex has done to our legal profession. The legal profession faces all kinds of scrutiny in the public and the canard of
as it should,
dishonesty, and we're liars and different stuff that
I'll come back to that, Blaine Blue.
But Alex has done more to hurt our profession in the last 2 years than I think has been done in the last 50 years. And Judge Newman has been consistent from the start. Remember, I argued the first bond hearing in connection with the Satterfield criminal charges, and Judge Newman denied him bond in a financial crime case, which was a portend to what he thought of Alex's conduct. And he gave him an opportunity today to show some contrition.
And he
for
didn't
lying and
show
cheating
any
and stealing
contrition
from
to lying in
clients,
court.
family, and friends. More importantly, to look at his son,
None at
Paul,
all.
and say, Buster, and say, I let you down. I've lied to you, and I lied to you throughout this trial. But Alex was defiant, similar to what he always has been, showed no contrition. And what you saw was Judge Newman say, not only am I sentencing you in this case, but I preside over every one of your 99 other cases. And I am going to essentially put my proverbial foot on your throat. And I'm going to schedule these cases back to back to back. And you are going to continue to face justice, and your victims are going to get justice. And I think what Judge Newman did, the way he presided over this trial, look, he was not a Judge Lancito from the OJ trial. He didn't become a personality. He wasn't the judge from the Anna Nicole Smith.
He became a personality for
Larry,
us.
I forget his last name, who got his own television show. He stayed in the background. He was Solomon-like in his behavior.
I think this judge acted like he acted every single day.
He spoke.
I think this is just him.
Incredibly loud. And what I see for our state and what I see for our legal profession is it's kind of like what I saw in Shawshank Redemption. Morgan Freeman said, well, Andy Dufresne went through 500 yards of raw sewage and he came out clean on the other side. I think our state and our legal profession is going to come out clean on the other side.
Indeed. And Morgan Friedman also
Thank you,
played
Tam.
God. I felt like we were listening to a version of that.
I think this judge showed incredible judicial demeanor in this case.
It was the county, it was the state, it was the country, and something that we just don't see very often. In that, you spoke very loudly in a voice that was very, very calm. He always has. Let's talk about those other victims that will be in front of Judge Newman. You represent some of them, and
we know about the other victims in the case.
To stand in this case,
so I am going to go back to our questions, because otherwise we will never get through them. We know about Tony Satterfield, and you will hear that more from, you will hear that more from Eric Bland on his podcast, Cup of Justice, where he talks more about this case. So again, I'm not going to take all of Court TV's feed. We're going to wait for this press conference to happen and get back to questions. So with all of that, I saw a question earlier. Let me grab it. Question, how are judges assigned trials? It depends on the jurisdiction. I'm sorry that it depends, but it depends very much on the jurisdiction, and it depends on the court. This judge was assigned to all of these cases because there's 100 of them plus 99 plus indictments. So this judge is assigned to all of them because it only makes sense for judicial economy that you be presented with everything and one judge be presented with everything. How that's done is generally by the Judicial Council, sometimes randomly. Emily, would you cover the appeals? Absolutely, yes. Greetings from Columbia, South Carolina. Tam, thank you. Your commentary kept me sane. I agree with guilty verdict. Many conspiracy theories in South Carolina. People and things go missing in swamps and never to be seen again. I have heard lots from this community and the rumbling suspicions about this family and more. So many of you have been very generous with your thoughts, your experiences, and have reached out. I look forward to being back in South Carolina again this spring. So I will be back in South Carolina this spring. It's lovely. I love it there. Can the people he prosecuted file an appeal based on his conviction here? No. They cannot, unless there is independent malfeasance in that case that can be proven. But no, his being convicted of murder doesn't change it. The judge made a comment that others have been sentenced to death for less in cases that were prosecuted. And he did say he qualified it with probably. But no, if the behavior was appropriate in that case, even though Alec has since been convicted of murder himself, it does not change those. Will people look into it? Maybe. And then we will see if there's more there. This case gets thrown out on appeal from 200 Watt Studio. Judge is bad, SLED lied to the grand jury, and the DA didn't prove their case. Judge made some awful rulings. I don't think this case gets thrown out on appeal. We'll see the appeal. If anything, it will get remanded for retrial on appeal. I have a lot of questions about the grand jury, and I hope that they look into that more. And I would love to have the transcript from the grand jury and to see what happened. Like, I want to see what happened to that grand jury. And I think it absolutely should be looked into. Creighton Waters is in charge of the grand jury. I think it should be looked into. I really do. And I hope that it will. Will it? I don't know. I don't know if it will, because there's a difference between lying to the grand jury and presenting a case without a confirmatory report if you don't have the confirmatory report. I want to know why they don't have the confirmatory report. I have a lot of questions about that. And if that's what the grand jury decided on, then that's a huge problem. If that's not what the grand jury decided on, it's still a problem that they thought that that was fine. But we will see what happened. What is the grand jury? The grand jury is a secret jury where the state alone presents evidence to them and they bring down indictments. Amanda says you can see his acceptance in his eyes. You can tell he knows what he did. He knows he deserved this. He's nodding and agreeing. I leave it to y'all to make your own conclusions about Alec Murdaugh's change of behavior in court. Elena Z said, can any of AM past cases be put on trial again because of this conviction? So we got there. Kelly is saying, judge is saying what so many have wanted to say to him, putting the screws to him. You know, townspeople who have watched him can only say, oh, how the mighty have fallen. I think that is a theme in this case. I just want to make sure, as we see this case and others go forward, that, oh, how the mighty have fallen does not become the goal to the exclusion of all else. It needs to also include a fair process and system. So the delight on the internet of like taking him down can't overweigh that. I would have done the financial crimes first, because I think there is uncontroverted and very clear evidence of all of it. Can the judge supersede the state decision and issue the death penalty? No, he cannot by law. Stacey feels like AM might be suppressing any emotions. Might be. I'm going to go to questions and pull up other things that aren't questions as I can. Otherwise, we will never get through them. No real evidence of drug abuse. He stumbled on every question about it. I have questions. Nathan, I know a lot of people do. I don't think it's what he said it was. The jury's going to decide. I don't think he wasn't dependent on opioids, though. Was it to the extent that he said? I don't know. I don't know. It was weird not seeing Maggie's family still in court for me. Agile Success for All said, request one of the jurors was on the news and talked about why they decided it. Oh, we did that? Yes, request granted. Request granted. If you want me to grab your question, please put like a question mark or the word question or even just a Q in front of it so I can see it. It's much easier. Alexis, can Alec Murdaugh sell his version of the story from prison? I did not hear a limiting instruction on that, but I don't know what the overriding law in South Carolina is. Sometimes they just have it on the books that you cannot profit from your crime. It doesn't mean he can't write a book. He might not be able to profit on it. Or Buster can write a book. I don't know if anybody wants it. Imaginary Demon said, question, do you think the attorneys being friends with Alec Murdaugh might have been a bad idea? Yes. Since the jury might think they're too close to the case. I don't know if that's why it's a bad idea, but I think they are in fact too close to the case. I don't know about Poot. I don't know if Poot's like buddies with Murdaugh. I don't know if they're like bros, you know, but Jim Griffin absolutely is. And if Jim Griffin is going to be a part of the defense team, maybe have Barber do more. But I do think there's clouded with judgment, but also on the other side of that, Alec Murdaugh is a strong personality, clearly. He thinks he's the smartest person in the room, clearly. So would it have mattered? Would Alec Murdaugh have been pushing around his legal team no matter what? Much like Amber Heard. I think Amber Heard pushed her legal team quite a lot. Would Alec Murdaugh have been pushing whatever legal team? So it doesn't matter. I don't know. I don't think Jim should have done the closing. I think he was too close to it. Question, what upcoming trials will you be covering? I haven't even thought about it yet. I have a list somewhere, but my brain is mushy like my sense of time. Will he go to a special prison for high status criminals? Bridget, no. He will go to state prison like everybody else. He will not be in a lower security prison because of the crimes he has been convicted of. He has not been convicted of simply white collar crimes. He is not going to a federal white collar prison camp like a Jen Shaw or Todd Chrisley. He is going to state prison and not to a lower security prison. I'm sure he will find his way, as we have seen from his jail calls that he has done well in state prison. He is not unfamiliar with the system, and money goes quite a long way in custody settings, and people are still putting money on his books. Lulukin said it's very unfortunate. Look at what happened to Mallory Beach, but did Paul ever have a chance to do or be something different? I don't know. I think it's a real question of legacy families, but that is a question that I am in no way to qualify to answer, but I think it's worth asking. Can we get a but also t-shirt? I mean, maybe. Did Alec know Paul was filming? No, I don't think so. Jane, I don't know if the evidence that I rely on to come to that very firm no is that he lied about being at the kennels every single time. And even when confronted with the fact that Rogan heard him on the phone, I think Alec believed his word would sway or carry more weight than Rogan Gibson's, and that he could overpower kind of that testimony or that thought. So I don't think he knew anything about the video, and he couldn't get into Paul's phone. Maybe he worried about it, maybe he didn't. But if you believe that he looked at Paul's phone and was like, because in the interview he said, I picked it up, I don't know, I figured it out, put it back on him, it popped out, blah, blah, blah. Then, I don't think he knew. And I think that's why it was so powerful. I thought we were going to watch the sentencing. We did. Roll it back. It's happened. It's been happened. Done and gone. We did. It's happened. You would have to roll back the beginning of the stream. We are waiting for the defense press conference. Maybe I should just put up a little banner at the bottom. That'll make it helpful. Sentenced to life. I also have a pinned comment. Waiting. Can I type? No. Let's see. There we go. There. Wait. I was trying to grab this question. Weren't we going to name the pickle today? We will put up a pickle poll in a little bit. I want to wait for this press conference, and then we will do a pickle poll. Oh, it has gotten so dark outside my house. And then we will do a pickle poll. They're doing sound tests outside the press conference, waiting for that to happen. Oh, my tab is moving here. So they are doing sound tests and still waiting for this press conference to begin. Alrighty. Let's see. Paw the pickle. That's a little too dark for me. The question is, if he killed them, why? What was the motive? Lily, I think when the state argued that he was protecting himself, that made more sense to me than the financial world was crumbling down. But they profiled him as a family annihilator, meaning with shame, he would take out his family to avoid discovery. Did they articulate it? Great. No. Does murder often make sense? Also no. I'm speechless how he said nothing to Buster for basically leaving him without a family. And he might say that on calls later and not say that in court. The judge was so hard and so compassionate, heartbreaking all around. I thought so too. I think many will continue to say, look at this judge's sentencing. He's biased. After all of the evidence is in, after the jury has rendered a verdict and at sentencing, it is appropriate for the judge to make statements about the case. Let's see. Emily, do you think they will put the picture of his grandfather? No, it's his grandfather back on the wall. I think so. I think they will. Will AM be put on a watch? That's standard procedure, and they probably did that yesterday, and that's common in new convictions, especially of serious crimes, and that's common after sentencing, depending on the jurisdiction, but that's generally the case. He said he would never hurt Maggie or Paul, yet that is all he did was hurt Maggie and Paul and his whole community. He said that. Devin said, thank you for covering. We don't live here anymore. I mean, we do today, don't we? Christy said, will he have to be in protective custody due to his volunteer solicitor status? I don't know what they will decide to do. It doesn't seem that he has been so far. Tamara said a juror went on GMA this morning. He is sitting in the courtroom this morning. He said on GMA, the first count was 9 guilt, 2 not guilt, 1 undecided. And then they convinced the 3 not guilty jurors to say guilty. That's how juror deliberations work. It is a process of people coming together, having a conversation, and deciding what the outcome should be. So that is not uncommon. I can only imagine what's going on through Buster's mind. This has got to be a hard day for Buster. So it's got to be a difficult day. I'm surprised there were no impact statements. Same. I am very surprised there were no victim impact statements. What the heck? I will miss my roomies here. Don't worry, we're all still here. We'll be back on Tuesday for Coffee and Cursey Words. Everyone grieves differently. That is very fair. I'm going to try. I am still trying to grab questions vis-a-vis comments. I don't even think that's the right word use of vis-a-vis, but I'm trying to grab comments or questions over comments so we can go through them. We know how much it jumped. Kaylee said, we know how much he complains about the food in custody and how much weight he's lost. Do you think he will stop eating? I don't think so. Side note, the chills when he said he sees Maggie and Paul daily. Yep. And the court absolutely said to him, you are going to have, basically, this is between you, the ghosts that haunt you, and God, is what this court said. No more robe of righteousness for this defendant. Emily, I just can't understand why you would have discharged this case. Will you please explain it to me? Why I would not have charged this case? And again, I come from a different jurisdiction, from a different organization. I do not have all the evidence these prosecutors have. I only have what is presented in court. And on what is presented in court, this is a very, very difficult circumstantial case. The jury said they found it simple. I don't find it simple. I understand how they got there, but this is a hard circumstantial case. I would have, for me, I am not them. They have more information than I do. They presented this to the grand jury. I think the blood spatter expert is a mess. I would have discounted that entirely. I would have, and they did at the end, but I would have gone through the financial crimes first and monitored him, monitored the jail calls, and wait to see what else we learn. There is no statute of limitations. There is absolutely no rush. He was in custody on no bail. Everything else was crashing down. It was done. There is no need to rush this. Once they filed it in July 2022, the defense did not waive time, and that's why it ended up in trial so fast. I don't think they were ready for trial. I think they needed more time to put together a clear timeline. I think this trial could have been done much better. And I think there's more information that they could have garnered by waiting or by putting out a press conference saying, we are not charging these murders at this time, and dealing with the public pressure and saying, we are not charging these at this time, and letting him think they're not coming for him. Let him think he got away with it. Don't confront him with the dog video. Don't confront him with the kennel video. Let him wait. Let him wait and see. Let him think that he got away with it and see what happens. And then if there's anyone else involved, if you have multiple people involved in a thing, which I think is a real question in this case, if you have multiple people involved in a thing, even if you think he pulled the triggers, if you think there's somebody else involved, wait and see what comes out. Wait and see what comes out. Deborah Doodles said, Emily, do you know where we can listen to the jailhouse calls? The ones that are public, a lot of them are on Fitz News and elsewhere. Didn't AM want a speedy trial? Yes. And the prosecution should have known that and been ready for trial with all of the data, including raising hell with GM to get that data before they went to the grand jury and got an indictment. Why not wait? How do you normally put out videos? Do you normally go live? Mama Kern, welcome to the Law Nerds. Yes, I go live on Tuesday and Thursday at 11 a.m. Central is when we do our normal videos. When we do trial coverage, I am here daily. I just saw somebody saying the presser got pushed. Are they talking? They might be talking to Alec and waiting. If it got pushed, that's fine. I mean, we're here. We're not going anywhere. It happens. So let's see. The defense presser has been pushed back to noon. All right. Thank you. Thank you, research attorneys in chat, for keeping me up to speed. But we're just keeping an eye on the cameras. So how does the negative, that jumped. How does the negative legal profession impacts from this case affect the community there? I don't know. I think it's not just this case, though. I think the legal community, especially in the plaintiff's bar, is coming to a reckoning. If you want to hear me talk more about that, I talk about it with Jay Edelson from Edelson PC on the Emily Show. I forget which episode number it is, but we talk about the plaintiff's bar. We talk about the Girardi case. We talk a little bit about this case. And we talk about how the legal profession has to deal with it. The legal profession has to have attorneys that stand up for what's right. And it is not easy to stand up against machines like some of these firms. And Jay Edelson talks about what that was like for his firm. Do you know what he said? Can we just talk about this real quick? Do you know what he said in that interview? Those of you that haven't seen it are like, girl, no. How would I? When their firm, Edelson PC, was working with Girardi, if you're not following the Girardi case, plaintiff lawyer, wife's a housewife, all the things, stole from a fucking ton of clients over decades and decades and decades, hundreds of millions of dollars in the bankruptcy of theft. Crazy. Crazy. When Jay Edelson brought this to the attention of the California State Bar, like, hey, we have uncontroverted evidence, proof, uncontroverted proof that he's stealing from these clients. Do you know what the State Bar said? Don't you have attorneys that are licensed in California in your firm? Yep. The state bar said, maybe we should take a look at you. Maybe we should just take a look at you. How would your firm like that? That's what they said. Oh, did I spell conference wrong? I do that. I'm dyslexic and ADHD. Peggy, thanks. I absolutely do that. I probably did. I didn't even, our letters inverted. I don't even know how I spelled it wrong at this point. Here's how we'll fix it. There we go. Saved. No, dyslexic and ADHD. I can't. And I don't see things. That absolutely blew my mind, Emily. My jaw dropped at that talk. Mine too. Mine too. That's what they said. Maybe we should take a look. Maybe we should take a look at your lawyers. And that's why it's so hard to fight back. But I think that the media is helping with that, in that these cases aren't staying quiet. These aren't getting pushed under the rug. Something that happened in a smaller jurisdiction in South Carolina is international news. Tom Girardi is international news. So when you lean into sunlight is the best disinfectant, having independent media channels like this one and others brings it to light. I'm community supported. I am supported by the law nerd community, by our sponsors on the podcast. Even when I talked about the Maxwell person, first name starts with a G, and YouTube throttled the ever-living shit out of my coverage of it, it didn't matter. Y'all wanted to see it. I have a way to keep you in the loop. I can put it on podcast platforms that do not take things down, and I can still get it to you. So we can talk about whatever we want. You can't control independent creators who are community supported. We get to talk about whatever the fuck we want. And there is nothing that can be done. Look, the shit's out of the horse on that one. There are too many independent creators, like Mandy Matney's podcast. Too many. We can cover it. What are you going to do? Take me off YouTube? Fine. We'll go somewhere else. We'll just do our own thing because we have a community that wants to listen. And I don't have any corporate entity saying we're not covering that story, because if we cover that story, like the South Park story, we're not going to cover that story because we're a derivative of Paramount or HBO or Warner or whoever the overlords are that are in charge of all the media companies, because all the media companies are interwoven and they're all owned by a very handful of large corporations. They're all owned by the same bigger corporations. And some of these stories push back on the interests of those corporations, which is why when we do cases like this, I try to follow local reporters who are there working for local outlets. And even some of those local outlets are owned more. But if I can communicate directly with you, we can cover whatever we want. We'll just do our own thing. And court records are public record. And we'll just keep grabbing them. And we'll keep talking about it. So to keep in the loop, lawnerdalert.com, because it's the easy way I can get to you. And I am going to stop ranting about that and we'll keep going. Question, how long will it take for the appeal to go through and then go to trial again? Lindsay, appeals take years. How long will it take for them to file it? I don't know. They probably have 90 days to file their notice of appeal and then a period of time after that. Quesadilla Picos, Emily, thank you for always being there for me. You talked me through how to sit with my sadness at the end of this murder case. What questions are you asking? Where is your folder? Thank you. Exactly. And yeah, it's processing these things are hard. Processing these things are very hard. Tammy, thank you for the kind words. Processing these things are difficult. Do you have any plans to cover the Delphi murders? I don't know. Today is the anniversary of finding Mallory Beach's body. Her family was in court with Mark Tinsley today. Casey Cat, they have been through such a difficult road. And knowing that there will never be a trial to determine what happened that night is hard. It's hard. Thank you for building this community, curiosity with compassion. You're welcome, Alexandria Home. I love it here. EDB, I'm proud to be a British law nerd. Vicky Watkins, thank you. I feel so sad for AM, even though I believe him guilty. Both things can be absolutely true. Steve said, do you think there was a second or even third shooter? If so, who? I don't know. H2O Sprite, will you cover the financial trial? Yes. If it goes to one. I don't know if it will. I wish we knew what evidence was found to open the Stephen Smith case again. I wish we did too. I wish we did too. That's an ongoing investigation. I hope we will see more movement. Stephen Smith's family deserves answers. All victims' families deserve answers. And I hope we will see that. Let's see. I need this press conference to start before my weather gets really bad. Can we, excuse me, Poot? I know you want lunch, my guy, but we do too. So, Trish C, I don't know. It's a fair question. This whole situation is devastating. Linz, I agree. Deb says, love from Debland. Thank you. Emily, your thoughts on no one speaking other than Alec? I was surprised. Kaylee said prosecutors had their monitor turned towards the cameras uncovered for Paul's autopsy. I caught it. And if that's how it got out and people screenshotted that, there's not much that can be done because that's an error. If it was fast, that's an error, but I'm sure it will be looked into. And the internet's going to internet. Things like this make me nervous, and here's why. It will encourage courts to disallow cameras in the courtroom. It will encourage courts to say things like, it is a public trial, and we have 5 seats for the public. Line up at 2 a.m. and take a lottery ticket. I think having our court system open gives you answers for better or for worse. And in the closing for the defense, you heard Jim Griffin say it. Hey, you heard Alex say they did him so bad. You heard that on the recording. You heard Alex say that's what he was saying. But you heard the officers come in here and said, no, Alex said I did him so bad. What would they say if there was no recording? Having these cases open where everyone can watch the evidence is the way to ensure that our system continues to be transparent. I think courts should absolutely be open. I think streaming them keeps them open. And hopefully we start to see the best from our court system. If you watched Depp v. Heard with me, just pop a 1 in the chat if you watched Depp v. Heard at all, but particularly if you watched it with me. The media reporting, some, not all, some of the legacy media reporting on Depp v. Heard and what we were seeing in court was so dramatically divergent that I was stunned at the difference. Stunned at the difference. How do you watch what we are watching and see it a completely different way? It was wild to me. And it showed just how much perspective can change depending on who's perceiving the thing. And that's why I don't want to filter court through someone else's perspective. I want to take their perspective into consideration with my perspective, but I want to see it from my viewpoint too, not just through someone else's point of view. And it was staggering to see the divergence there. And it's been interesting to see it in this trial too, because I've seen it with the perception of my coverage of the case. Emily, you're too hard on this prosecution team. Emily, you're too hard on this defense team, or you're too pro prosecution, or you're too pro defense. It really depends on perspective and where you're finding this case and me. And so it's interesting to watch it happen in the media in other cases, depending on what's being covered. And it happened in so many. So I want to see and hear, I want to hear from your perspective and my perspective and the chat's perspective. I want to hear your perspective, but I also want to see what happens in court. And I hope that our reporting gets back to this is exactly what was said without it being filtered through perspective, and then opinion pieces that give a perspective. Yes, tell me your thoughts in an opinion piece, but don't tell me that you're factually reporting what happened today if you're giving it all through your opinion. I want those two things to be separate again. And I think they should be. In court, this was said. That was said. This was noticed. Tell me what the facts are as they are happening. And then write another piece that is, this is what we think this case means. This is what the perspective is. This is what the spin is. Fine. Just keep them separate. Don't give me a whole bunch of opinion and tell me that it's facts. Opinions are fine, but they are not facts. They are opinions. All right, let's keep going. Let us keep going. We need Hogue back covering the headlines. Yes, we do. Hogue's headlines are some of my favorites. So let us continue on. EDB, I'm crying so hard. Yes, I took a screenshot of Maggie. I would never share. Of the family photos, because there's nothing wrong with that. Of the autopsy photos, I don't know why anybody would want those. I can imagine what those look like. Feel awful for Buster Brook. I agree. Jim's saying of he knee AM lied. He probably wouldn't be there, screamed to me. In closing, Jim Griffin said if Alec Murdaugh hadn't lied, they probably wouldn't be there. And that's probably true. That's probably true. What was interesting to me is Jim Griffin also distanced himself. This press conference should be starting shortly. Jim Griffin also distanced himself from their expert that said the shooter could not have been 6'4". And he said, yeah, it could be. That was very odd to me. Let's see. This press conference should be starting shortly. And yeah, it should be starting shortly. No one has walked out yet, but we're waiting for it. So we are still waiting for the defense press conference that should be starting shortly in Hampton, South Carolina. Brianna said, Poot laughing with Creighton. I expected Mark to shake hands with Jim, almost knocked me out of my chair. Mark Tinsley. Yep. They probably do. GG of 10 said, I have had attorneys in depositions almost fight and then go to lunch together. Yep. Attorneys are very good at that. Attorneys are very, very good at that. Emily, if you were to prepare an appeal for Alec, what would be your strategy? I would start with the admission of all of the other bad acts evidence. That's where I would start. I would need to go back through and rewatch things. I would go through the transcripts first. That would be my strategy, is going through the transcripts first. But I would attack the other bad acts evidence first, and I would keep it to a few main issues. I told you in Depp v. Heard, I prefer an appeal, and the appellate court tends to prefer an appeal that is on a few issues that are narrowly tailored to the appellate court, not throwing spaghetti up against the wall. So that's what I would do. There was a moment when they were showing Maggie's shoulder injury photo and you could see it on one of the court screens. I took notes a lot, so I was listening always, but I was not always looking directly at the screen. That's a shame. James said Poot waved photos callously. We did see that too, and the cameras panned away from that when Poot was waving photos. But what the court said today is that the photos that have been leaked on the internet didn't come from the gallery taking photos towards the bench. They came from the well of the court out. So it would make sense that that might be taking photos from the well of the court out, might be from people screen grabbing monitors. Mike said, my first murder trial from start to finish, and I'm emotional after that. I can only imagine the emotional release that happens after with the attorneys, if they're smart, not always. A lot of times attorneys go back into their office the next day after a 6-week trial and pick up all of the work, especially state's attorneys, pick up all of the work that they have not gotten done in those 6 weeks and keep going. And there is not time for it. I don't know what his family thinks. How does his statement impact his appeal? I don't think it does. Can the state use AM's confession on the stand to settle the other financial cases? Yes, they can push for that. Why didn't the state go for the death penalty? I think it's because this was a circumstantial case. I think it's because they are going to try all the other financial cases. I think it would be piling on. And they made that decision not to. The jurors, of course, aren't going to know that they chose not to until today, but I think those are part of the reasons why. But we'll see. I don't know what their policies and procedures on what cases they go after. Their different prosecutorial agencies approach the death penalty differently on when they ask for it and when they don't, and I don't know. Rami, I know we talked about that a little bit earlier. And as I said, I'm going to continue to try to get to questions while we are waiting for it. And then they would have to do the separate death penalty trial. And you would have a lot of, like, he loves his family evidence. It would just, this case doesn't seem like a case he would go for the death penalty on. Do you think that SLED will look into their training evidence procedures from now on? I hope that they do. Will anything come from the jury being shown accidentally yesterday for televising future hearings? John Overton, it was brought up in court. It was brought up in court, and the judge kind of said, this is all that this is, but it was brought up in court today. I don't know if much will happen. It was a screen grab, and it was of the prosecutor input. I unfortunately came across them on Twitter, and that's awful. And I think the judge made a pretty stern warning about that. And hopefully outlets aren't circulating them, but the internet's going to internet. Question, was Alec not upset because he is banking on appeals? I don't know why he's not upset. Appeals have a very low chance of actually overturning a trial. And if it is get overturned, it gets retried. So an appeal is not a get out of jail in most cases. Some are allowed out of jail pending appeal, like Jesse Smollett. That happened in his case. But that's a much, much different case than this. So no, an appeal doesn't help. It doesn't really, for Alec Murdaugh, the damage is done with this verdict. This verdict has told the world that he murdered his wife and son, and that this jury believes that he murdered his wife and son. That's what this verdict told everybody. So even if the appeal overturns the conviction and it goes for retrial, even if the state doesn't retry it and they overturn his sentence, he's still going to be in custody for life on all the financial crimes. So in practicality, even if he wins his appeal on the highest level he could, it maybe clears his name. But even if it does, there's still people, even though the verdict came out the other way in like an O.J. Simpson case, there are still people in the public who are like, I saw that trial and I don't agree with the verdict. And I believe what I believe about, O.J. Simpson, one way or the other. So it's the same. I mean, the trial has happened. It has happened publicly. The damage to name and reputation is done. And he's not going to get out of custody, even if he wins his appeal at the highest level. So I'm still waiting for this presser that was supposed to happen 6 minutes ago. Emily, you can't shade anyone for being late. No, I can't. No, I can't. Obsessed with the Truth said, question, he said they were leaked by an attorney and law enforcement can investigate. I didn't hear him say they were leaked by an attorney. Maybe the press is delayed because they are confronting Griffin about it. Judge stared him down when saying it. I would have to go back and listen to exactly what the judge said, but he said it came from the well of the court. It came from the inside of the court, like from where the judge is and that direction. And they were trying to figure out how, but it's just as likely that the court faces it that way. I don't think Jim Griffin would leak those, but we'll see. If only convicted on the financial crimes, where would he serve time be different? I don't know the prison system in South Carolina well, and I don't know how many prisons they have within the state prison system. It's possible that it would be at the exact same place on a lower level of security. It's possible it would be somewhere different. I do not know the inner workings of the South Carolina prison system, and I don't, again, know how many prisons they have within their state. Question, who gets Maggie Murdaugh, Paul Murdaugh life insurance money? We are told from this case multiple times over, there is no life insurance. I believe that John Marvin is the executor of Maggie's estate. A lot of that should go to Buster. However, a lot of it will go to the Beach family. I'm just trying to figure out how this one man did all this, getting guns, hiding guns, throwing phones, and cleaning himself up in the matter of seconds. I mean, 20 plus minutes. And the jury thought it was possible, which means they thought there was a lot of discussion about the hogs. Let's talk about the hogs for a minute. Look, cameras are moving. Doors are opening. Nothing is happening. There was a lot of discussion about hogs. Why? I think, though nobody tied it together well, that conversation was going to whether or not when Alec and Paul were riding around the property, if he put the blackout and the shotgun on the back of the UTV that they were rolling around in. And so the guns were there because they were in the UTV and they were riding the property with a shotgun and with the 300 blackout. I think that's why we heard so much about what gun would you take if you were riding around with about hogs? Because the guns were in the UTV. So then the guns are already there, and we'll see. So I think that's why we saw so much about the hogs. And I saw in the chat the comment that Kohlberger allegedly stabbed people in 4 minutes, like under 4 minutes. And that is a much different and slower process of taking someone's life. Also, it depends on when you agree with the time of death. I've seen a lot of comments and even chats today saying, hey, time of death in this case was never proven. I think the jury found the time of death to be when the phones went silent. They're allowed to say, we believe that argument. So yes, you can prove time of death from circumstantial evidence. And they had the state had an expert, if the jury believed them, which they seem to have. The state had an expert that said that the pattern of life on the cell phone usage that they saw was that Paul was on his phone until the battery died. And then when it plugged in, continued to be on the phone. I think with regard to Paul's phone use, the fact that he was in the middle of a conversation about cash and in the middle of a conversation about a movie and was answering those conversations so fast and then the phone completely stopped is very telling. And it's clear to me that the jury agreed with that perception of the case and not with armpit corners. Could the time of death have been later? Yes. Did the jury find that that's not reasonable? Yes. Did the jury find that the state's case with that time of death must have been reasonable? Yep. Because that's what they said in the interview today. Mallory Beach's father spoke to reporters. I will look for that later. Said the autopsy report was leaked by a lawyer. I'm going to have to go back and watch that. Still flabbergasted at the weird staging of Moselle. The Buster pot is weird to me. And it was pointed out on Twitter yesterday that they didn't move to Moselle. Moselle wasn't really ever Buster's home. It was the hunting property, but Buster already moved out and was living as an adult separate from his parents when Moselle was purchased. That's what I saw on Twitter. So it is odd to me that that's there. Is it possible the prosecution wanted to get AM to admit his financial crimes on record in a case of not guilty or hung jury would help get higher sentences with those convictions? It wouldn't help get higher sentences with those convictions. There are so many financial crimes, the sentence is life. There's no higher sentence for that, and possibly kill two birds. Stacey, that isn't a proper purpose of prosecution. To say, we might lose this case, but if we try him for murder, it will force him to admit the other crimes. Does it mean they didn't? I don't know. They definitely wanted this case. I think they wanted to convict him of murder. They don't need a confession on those financial crimes cases. The evidence is overwhelming in the financial crimes case. They don't need a confession. His defense was paid out of his 401k, which is proper. No victim statement. Family drew a line between public spectacle and private feelings, and I think that's fair for them to do. Is it possible that the defense closing was weak because his own lawyer knew he was guilty? Should never be. I've known lots of defense attorneys who don't know whether their client did it or not, and they do their absolute best to give their client a zealous defense. That is their job, and that is their role, and they're very good at it. I think, and others disagree. There were people who really liked Jim Griffin's closing, but I think Jim Griffin was just too close, and I think it was heavy, and I think he was sad, and I think that is fair given everything. This press conference was supposed to start an hour ago, and it keeps getting pushed. And we're not seeing any other updates as to why. Let me go look and see if anybody else has an updated time. Did anybody see an updated time on social? Just so we can update the chat. Chat, research attorney chat. You all are so wise. Let me know. We're going to keep answering questions. Alec Murdaugh left the courthouse about an hour ago. Let's see. And that's about it. I'm not seeing any update into time on this press conference at all, so we will wait. Because there is nothing else we can do. This press conference better say something. Question. I wanted to ask I want someone to ask Paul's ex-girlfriend if Alec really ever called him Paul. Do you think he made it up to gain sympathy? I don't think he made it up. It seemed that Paul was saved in Alec's phone as Paul in the records that are in evidence. The way he did it in court felt manipulative, but I don't think it was completely fake. Kathy said, please confirm that Idaho referenced the student murders. I should say the Idaho College case. I can do that, not the Daybell case, which was just separated. Thank you for everything. Anniversary of my grandson's murder is the 13th. It's a hard time. I'm sure it is. You help with that? Well, Kathy, if being here helps, I'm here, and the law nerd community is here, and I'm sorry for that. Heavenly anniversaries are very hard in that way. If appeal is granted and there is a new trial, can they bring in new evidence? Yes. I don't think they would retry it. But then again, every time I say I think they would do this, they don't. So I'm just, going off my own. I don't know if it's worth another 6 weeks of the state's time, energy, and resources if he's serving life already. Anyway, how do prosecutors get paid? By the state, by the taxpayers? Salary, yes. What about the defense attorneys? It depends. If they're public defenders, alternate public defenders, they also get paid by the state, generally scaled government wages the same way as the prosecutors. Private attorneys get paid by their client or their client's family in a variety of ways. Stars, anyone who has lost someone replays the last conversation over and over. How can you not remember? I don't know if he doesn't remember. He definitely wasn't saying it, though. The judge should record sleep stories. His voice is so soothing. I really am here for it. I'm here. Look, Calm app, Audible. Judge Newman's going to have to retire at some point. He's got to be done. Can we please? What happened to the others that saw the boat? In a documentary I saw on TV, a relative said that Paul was not alone with her on the boat. Oh, LM, with the boat case. No, there was a whole group of friends. There were a whole group of friends on the boat. And there are conflicting statements on the boat crash, on who was driving last. The boat crash case is also a very interesting case, but we don't know more because when Paul was killed, it did not go forward. Paul was charged with driving the boat. There were people who changed their statements with regard to that, but there were lots of people on the boat. And others were injured as well. So the boat crash case is a whole separate can of worms. Jim Griffin, who was representing Paul in that case, said that he thought the case was very defensible. Of course he did. He was representing Paul. There were conflicting statements given and statements changed. Then again, trauma also does that. So the boat case is not as easy as maybe we would all like it to be. So let me see. I'm trying to see if this, nope. Everything's just re-airing stuff. So we sit and wait and answer your questions. Hey, law nerds. The defense attorneys are coming. The defense attorneys are coming, all in their sunglasses. It's happening. It's happening. Let me sweep so we can timestamp it. Nice glasses, Barbara.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
I'm Nick Arbuny. This is Jim Griffin. That's Henry Dale. That's Maggie Fox.
Hold on. The sound's off. Let me just.
That's Maggie
There we go.
Fox. That's Holly Miller. This is Phil Barber.
There we go.
We are Alex Murdaugh
What?
defense team.
What?
We're able to answer your questions.
Okay.
We're not going to make a statement. I know y'all don't want one. So.
That's not necessarily true. We're here for your statement.
Got a question?
Can you guys hear okay?
Do you think it was a mistake to put Alex Murdaugh on the stand?
No. That's.
Mr. Harpootlian, why did you object to that juror being dismissed yesterday?
Good question.
Why didn't I?
Why did you?
Why did you?
Well, for two reasons. One, she admitted she talked to
The sound is a little weird.
other people about the case, but not specifically. But technically, I think the judge had leeway to excuse her, but she clearly, after we interviewed her back.
Okay, you guys, hold on. It isn't the best sound, but this is being aired literally everywhere. Let me pick a different feed and see if we get a little bit better audio. We're picking up a ton of background noise on that one. Let's see if we've got better audio from another news outlet. Let's go to WFLA's audio and see how that is. Oh, that's much better. All right. Let's do that.
Good afternoon, afternoon.
That's much better.
I'm Dick Harpootlian. This is Jim Griffin.
There we
That's
go.
Emily Dale. That's Maggie Fox. That's Holly Miller. And this is Phil Barber. We are Alec Murdaugh's defense team. We're able to answer your questions. We're not going to make a statement. I know y'all don't want one.
That's not true. They do. Absolutely. We want a statement, but all right.
Anybody got a question?
Do you think it was a mistake to put Alex Murdaugh on the stand?
No. Next.
Why did you object to that juror being dismissed yesterday?
Why didn't I?
Why did you object to that juror being dismissed yesterday is the question?
Well, for two reasons. One, she admitted she talked to other people about
Completely improper.
the case, but not specifically. But technically, I think
Chat, we need Barber to tell Poot what kind of glasses to wear. Because Barber's looking fly. Y'all, look at Barber.
the judge had leeway to excuse her, but she clearly, and after we interviewed her back in chambers, in my mind, had not made up her mind. And I thought that was important.
Do you think she would have held your case?
I don't know. She didn't express an opinion to us. She said she was open.
Didn't express
She
an
had made up her
opinion.
mind.
Still talked about it.
The defense has made a great deal of points about SLED and their handling of the investigation.
They're asking about SLED.
For your position in the Senate, do you feel there's an opportunity to address that from a legislative standpoint?
I think there were significant issues, but I won't be addressing that in the Senate unless it comes up in a bill.
They asked Harpootlian if he will be addressing it as a legislature. Remember, Poot is a sitting state senator. So are you going to take this case and bring it into the Senate? And he said, not unless it comes up in a bill.
I'm not going to mix this role with my role as a senator. I would not do that.
Why do you think that the prosecutors didn't take that penalty in this case? And what do you make about the judge's comments after the verdict that he agreed with the jurors?
What do you think about the judge's comments? I'm going to try to repeat the questions. They are very hard to hear. What do you think the comments that the judge made after the verdict, that he agrees with the verdict, but it looks like Poot's looking to Jim to see if he can hear because of the cars in the background?
What now?
Death penalty question.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Why didn't they seek the death penalty?
Well, I'm somebody that's prosecuted and defended a bunch of death penalty cases.
Oh.
And clearly, you never
wasn't the
do it in
question.
a circumstantial case. Because you're not 99 times out of 100, a jury's not going to sentence somebody to death without I saw him do it, he confessed, or great forensic evidence.
I don't
at the
think that was
minimum.
the question.
They had none of that here. Secondly, it would in a death penalty case, it gives us the ability to individually voir dire jurors, which would have been very helpful here.
Yeah, it would have been.
And the prosecution obviously didn't want that. So I don't
I don't know
disagree
about
with.
that.
I mean, if I'd been prosecuting this case, I probably wouldn't have brought it. But
Chad, I
based
see
on,
you.
What we
It's
heard
not
was
Thursday,
presented
but
to the
y'all can be
Colleton County
thirsty.
grand jury
I'm not going to tell you not to
by
be.
Detective Owen that Jim crossed, blood spatter that didn't exist, testimony about guns that was wrong. I mean, I can go through the litany with you. Going
We've
back
heard
to
it.
his question, I think SLED needs to do some self-examination on the forensic processing. They did not. I mean, one of the things
question,
we
Todd.
complained about was that Maggie's phone would have had all her GPS data on it if they processed it within
If they'd taken out the
5
SIM
days.
card.
And they because they didn't, the GPS data got overridden. I
And
mean,
that
it was just
sucks.
one, which would have been helpful to Alec. It's
Would have been helpful to everybody.
fingerprints, footprints, and all kinds of forensics things that weren't done.
Yep. I don't disagree with
So
that.
what was the question about the judges?
What do you think about the judge's comments after the verdict that he agreed with it and thought it was the right conclusion?
What do you think of the judge's comments after the verdict that he agreed with it?
He's entitled to his opinion.
Mr. Harpootlian,
Very-
do you expect an appeal anytime soon?
Very fair answer, because he's going to have to appear in front of this judge a lot. This defense team can't comment on the judge. They can flame SLED all they want. They can't comment on the judge too much because the judge is the judge on all their coming cases. They are now being asked about
10 days will be found.
the filing of the appeal that the defense says is
Appeal.
coming in 10 days.
What'd you say?
What do you believe the strongest grounds for appeal are?
Strongest grounds
Yeah,
for
it
appeal,
was the admission of all the financial crime evidence.
the 404.
And that was offered up, as evidence of motive, that because he was confronted about one
All
financial
of the financial
transaction
crimes.
involving attorney's fees by the chief accountant of the law firm, and that was being offered as motive for why he would go home and kill his wife and son, which we thought was illogical and ludicrous. And there really was no evidence linking one to the other, and we did not think it should come in. Not only did that
Why
come
didn't
in,
you
but
let Barbara
every
speak
other
more?
financial misdeed that they could bring in over the last 10 or 15 years was allowed in. And we
Chat
think
once
that
more, Barbara.
we strongly objected. We respect the judge's decision, but we believe that was erroneous decision. And we believe that the judge was somewhat misled, because at the conclusion of the case, when Mr. Metters is up on his rebuttal argument in front of the jury, he says to the jury, "Oh, forget about all that motive evidence. We don't have to prove motive. We just have to prove malice," which is right. But why did they go to all the effort to prove motive when at the end they say, "You don't have to believe us on our motive theory"? But by then they had cast Alec as a despicable human being, and that was the reason they offered it in the first place. And we think the appellate courts will take a strong look at that. We feel like that is a very solid ground for an appeal, and we're going to pursue that.
Yeah, I'd want to fix Poot's glasses too. They're too small.
6 weeks, long trial. Would you guys do anything different in the last 6 weeks?
Would you do anything different in the last
No.
6 weeks?
I mean, look,
no.
Once the judge, first of all, we believe if the judge was going to let that stuff in, it should have been limited to the Ferris case, which is what they were asking him about on Monday on the fee. Number two, Tinsley, the person that made the motion to compel to be heard on Thursday, Dawes Cook, Alex's lawyer, both agreed there wasn't going to be any storm or Armageddon or anything that was going to happen that Thursday. The judge might have issued an order, which months down the line might have posed a problem. So once they got that character in it, character information is he's a thief, he's a liar, then it dictated this jury had to think he was a despicable human being and not to be believed.
Very
so
fair
it was
point.
about character. It wasn't about
hearing aids.
motive. So as a result, our options were limited. Should he take the stand? Well, we debated that. He always wanted to take the stand. But once that information was in, I mean, if he had to take the stand to explain the kennel video, the lie, if you will. He had to, but he had
If
no
you will,
credibility.
it's a lie,
stripped
Poot.
away by the financial.
The lie, if you will. Ever the politician, Poot.
Yes.
How is Buster doing?
Do you believe Alec is innocent? Was that question? I'm going to roll that back.
Stripped away by the financial misdeeds. Yes.
How is Buster
Do you believe Alec's claim today that he's innocent? Poot gave an emphatic yes, and now they're asking about how is Buster doing?
doing, and why did he choose not to speak at the sentencing?
I want to know that too. How is Buster doing? How is Buster doing? Why did he choose not to speak at the sentencing?
We could have had Mother Teresa up there speaking on behalf of Alec at
NCP.
sentencing. I mean, he was getting a double life sentence. That's
what was happening.
That was expected. I mean, this is Judge Newman. He's a very stringent punisher when it comes to crimes and sentences. I mean, that was never in dispute. And so for Buster to get up and speak on his dad's behalf would not have made a difference. And why do you want to put that kid through more trauma than anybody that we can imagine has ever been through?
Very real.
What's that?
Have his feelings about his dad changed at all?
I can't speak.
Have Buster's feelings about his dad changed all? Those are questions for Buster. And I say for a little bit, just leave the kid alone,
To Buster's feelings, I can tell you this. There was a lot of effort by the state to convince the family that Alec is the murderer. The family came to trial every day for 6 weeks, expecting to hear
I'll get to that.
proof positive that he killed Maggie and Paul, something that they had not heard before. After 6 weeks of trial, they came away more convinced that he did not do this, and they steadfastly in his camp and support him, and that's where they stand.
Alex family steadfastly in his camp and believe he did not do this, is what he said. Okay.
Well, Alex will be leaving shortly to go to Columbia to R&E, it's called, where he'll be at the South Carolina Department of Corrections. He'll be evaluated. That's about a 30-day process, and then he'll be sent to wherever the correctional facility that they assign him to.
Special security measures for him?
Special security measures.
Alec was not optimistic that with all of the scrutiny and press and all of his bad acts being out in the public, in the world, media domain, that he could get, a jury,
a
to
fair trial,
put out all the noise and just focus on the murder. And so coming in, he was somewhat pessimistic. He became optimistic as we got through the process. But I got to tell you, and all you reporters, you know the whole story, I'm sure. And if you're sitting on that jury, they heard everything that would be in an HBO documentary, a Netflix documentary about the Murdaugh family dynasty downfall, except the Stephen Smith matter.
Yes, that's true.
So we were hoping to get a jury to put all, that could ignore the noise, focus on the murder, and we ended up trying a case that they could have watched on Netflix.
I don't know about that, but do you feel like you were outmatched? They're not going to say
not
that.
Outmatched. I mean, look, they won this case the day the judge bought into letting them put every piece of, stealing from kids.
He's right.
Who lost their mother, from somebody with pancreatic cancer, somebody that's a paraplegic. I mean, all of that 2.5 weeks. By the time they got done with it, it didn't matter about final argument. It didn't matter about what we put up. They would never, ever, ever.
He's right, and here's why. Sorry, my alarms scared me. He's right, and here's why. It forces Alec to have to take the stand. It forces him to have to take the stand once all the financial comes in. I think the kennel video also forces him, but I understand Poot's point in this.
Acquit him after that.
Last question.
We'll file something not in 10 days, but we'll file a notice of intention to appeal. Then we've got 30 days, I think, to file a brief.
Yeah, so you file the notice within 10 days. You got to get a transcript.
Oh, that'll take a while.
That'll take months before they type up everything. And then we start briefing.
Are you all going to handle the appeal?
Yes.
And are you at the Court of Appeals of the Supreme Court?
And
they're handling the appeal. Don't worry, I'm weather good. They're handling the appeal. Though if I lose internet, that's why. So we're going to try to finish this and get to questions so I don't have to worry about it.
The U.S. Supreme Court.
And the U.S. Supreme Court if necessary. That's correct.
What's the federal issue?
They're going to appeal this.
Oh, there's a huge federal issue. That's why I got so animated, and the judge told me to sit down.
He did.
Part of the trial is the state eliciting or asking questions of Alec about why he did not come forward and tell law enforcement where he was at the time of the kennel video. And that was after he was arrested. And there's U.S. Supreme Court cases are clear that post-arrest silence cannot be used against you.
They are, and I think there's a very interesting question there. So that's the Doyle error he's talking about, commenting on post-arrest silence. It's interesting how they will parse whether he's arrested yet on the murder case or whether he's not arrested yet on the murder case, because I don't think he was in custody on the murders yet, but he was in custody. So it, I think, is not a clear question, but it's a question for sure. Holy shit. This weather is absolutely bad at the moment. All right, let's keep going. Pray for my internet. Oh gosh. No. Come on.
That is a classic violation of the Fifth Amendment. And we feel strongly that if we lose at the state courts, we'll have success at the federal court.
Can you tell us about the plea negotiations before trial?
No.
There were no plea negotiations.
There weren't any.
They never offered him anything.
Never offered a plea. Interesting.
What effort are you making to find the real killer or whatever he may be.
Not our job to find the real killer. If
That's
they had
fair. That's
taken
fair.
fingerprints, if they gotten footprints, if they hadn't destroyed, if they preserved Maggie's phone with her GPS, if they had not, I mean, they misrepresented to the grand jury that they had a shirt with his blood on it. When they, and if if Owen had opened his email, he says he didn't get, would have told him a year before there was no human blood on that T-shirt. I mean, it was a comedy of errors in terms of forensics on this. So do I have faith that they would find the real killer? No. What? We don't know. What? Last question. Last question. Say that one more time. There was no choice.
Did you support putting Alec Murdaugh on the stand? Is the last question. He says there's no choice.
Because he had been made out to be a monster who stole from children and crippled people, and crippled, not, that's not a politically correct word.
He was made out to be a monster that stole from children. He did do those things, Poot. The court let it all come in, but he did do those things.
I'm sorry, I'm an old guy. Crippled people, who had just done horrible, despicable things, and he had to try to push back on that. And I mean, if he'd let that lay without taking the stand, he was toast. Taking the stand,
They thought he had a chance.
Could he pull it off?
Could he convince them?
In hindsight, do you regret not asking for a change of venue in this case?
Not really, because we checked.
Do you regret not asking for a change of venue? Law and Lumber, I think I need a link for Barber's Sunnies. You do. They look like Ray-Ban aviators. They're delightful. Chat, tell Rob what you think. He's asking. He's in here teasing the chat. He's asking. Did you regret not asking for a change of venue? Very interesting question. And yes, Poot said he thought he could pull it off. That's exactly what the fuck he said. That's exactly what he said. So I see you, chat, about Barber, but pull it off is what he said. He did steal from kids. He did. I'm an old guy. He is. Poot is around my dad's age, so there are times when I get it. He pull it off. Can't believe he said it that way. I can believe he said it that way. That's what he believes. That Alec thought he could pull it off. Those are Poot's real feelings. Hold on. I'm going to back it up. Was putting Alec on the stand a mistake? No, Alec thought he could pull it off.
In hindsight, do you regret not asking for a change?
Oh, hold on. Let me back this up a little bit more. I love getting to do this not exactly live where we get to talk about it.
Say that one more time.
Did you support putting Alec Murdaugh on the stand?
There was no choice.
Why?
Because he had been made out to be a monster who stole from children.
Yeah, we need to update Poot's compassionate languaging. This whole case. That's why he says he's an old guy. But I want to hear about the pull it off comment again. So
and crippled people and crippled, not, that's not a politically correct word.
You see him realizing it.
I'm sorry, I'm an old guy.
You see him realizing it. People who were horrifically disabled due to being severely injured in cases that Alec then represented them in.
Crippled people who had just done horrible, despicable things. And he had to try to push back on that. And I mean, if he'd let that lay without taking the stand, he was toast. Taking the stand, could he pull it off?
Emily, you fucked it up. Damn it. Could he pull it off? And I was trying to pause it and then I screwed it up again. Could he pull it off?
But we believe that was an erroneous decision. And we believe that the judge was somewhat misled, because at the conclusion of the case, when Mr. Metters is up on his rebuttal argument in front of the jury, he says to the jury, oh, forget about all that motive evidence. We don't have to prove motive. We just have to prove malice.
Oh, which
is right.
This is too far back. I apologize, y'all. Thank you for look. If you're new here, just a word to the wise. We produce our own shows.
Of Alec at sentencing, I mean, he was getting a double life sentence.
All right. I'm going to zoom so we get back past Poot saying he could pull it off. And there we go.
And then we start briefing.
Are you all going to handle the appeal?
Yes.
And argue it in the court of
They are handling the appeal. We heard that. Let's see. Oh, that's almost the end. I've made a bridge too far by fucking the stream up myself.
You know the whole story, I'm sure. And if you're sitting on that jury, they heard everything that.
Emily, just let it go. I can't. ADHD. Apologies.
From somebody with pancreatic cancer, somebody that's a paraplegic. I mean, all of that 2.5 weeks.
There we go. Back on track.
Piece of, stealing from kids who lost their mother, from somebody with pancreatic cancer, somebody that's a paraplegic. I mean, all of that 2.5 weeks. By the time they got done with it,
over my skis.
It didn't matter about final argument. It didn't matter about what we put up.
Hold on.
They would never.
Let me back that up because we've bridged too far past. I thought he could pull it off.
A jury to put out all the noise and just focus on the murder. And so coming in, he was somewhat pessimistic. He became optimistic as we got through the process. But
Happy and hard to
but
agree
I got
with
to
you.
tell you, and all you reporters, you know the whole story, I'm sure. And if you're sitting on that jury, they heard everything.
I'm a
that would
streamer.
be
We do
in
our
an
best.
HBO documentary, a Netflix documentary about the Murdaugh family dynasty downfall, except the Stephen
too far
Smith
back.
matter. I mean, so we were hoping to get a jury to put all, that could ignore the noise,
we live here now.
focus on the murder, and we ended up trying a case that they could have.
I don't know how this will
on
affect
Netflix.
Randy. That's really up to the community. Do you feel like you were
Absolutely
outmatched?
not. I mean, not outmatched.
Look at the laugh.
I mean,
Do you think you were
look,
outmatched? Laughs.
They won this case the day the judge bought into letting them put every piece of, stealing from kids who lost their mother, from somebody with pancreatic cancer, somebody that's a paraplegic. I mean, all of that 2.5 weeks. By the time they got done with it, it didn't matter about final argument. It didn't matter about what we put up. They would never, ever, ever acquit him after that. Last question.
What your ground for appeal will be? You said 10 days to lay out your arguments on that.
We'll file something, not in 10 days, but we'll file a notice of intention to appeal. Then we've got 30 days, I think, to file a brief.
Yeah, so you file the notice within 10 days. You got to get a transcript.
Oh, that'll take a while.
That'll take months before they type up everything, and then we start briefing.
Are you all going to handle the appeal
Yes.
and argue it in the Court of Appeals of the Supreme Court?
And the U.S. Supreme Court.
And the U.S. Supreme Court if necessary. That's correct.
What's the federal issue?
Doyle.
Oh, there's a huge federal issue. That's why I got so animated, and the judge told me to sit down. Part of the trial is the state eliciting or asking questions of Alec about why he did not come forward and tell law enforcement where he.
Okay, sorry. Issa Lara, yes, the kennel video would have been disclosed to the defense in the initial discovery because they had it in April 2022. He was arrested in July 2022, and the defense would have gotten it then.
Was at the time of the kennel video, and that was after he was arrested. And there's U.S. Supreme Court cases are clear that post-arrest silence cannot be used against you, and that is a classic violation of the Fifth Amendment. And we feel strongly that if we lose at the state courts,
they'll just keep going. They're just going to keep going.
No,
there were no plea negotiations.
There weren't any.
They never offered him anything.
Never a plea negotiation.
What effort are you making to find the real killer, or what effort is he making?
Not our job to find the real killer. If they had.
What effort are you making to find the real killer was the question, because I did back up too far.
Taken fingerprints, if they'd gotten footprints, if they hadn't destroyed, if they preserved Maggie's phone with her GPS, if they had not, they misrepresented to the grand jury that they had a shirt with his blood on it. when they, and
Thank
if
you,
they-
Alaskarola, for your
if,
work.
You know, if Owen had opened his email,
Very
he said he
hard
didn't
work.
get,
Very much
would have told him a
appreciated.
year before there was no human blood on that T-shirt. I mean, it was a comedy of errors in terms of forensics on this. So do I have faith that they would find the real killer? No.
My monitors are, I think, in my Amazon shop.
What? I don't.
One's
We don't
an
know.
LG,
What? Last question.
one's a
Last
Samsung.
question. Say that one more time.
Here we go. This is
There
where I
was no
backed up
choice.
for. Sorry, y'all. He's going to be offensive again.
Because he'd been made out to be a monster who stole from children and crippled people, and crippled not. That's not a politically correct word. I'm sorry, I'm an old guy. Crippled people who had just done horrible, despicable things, and he had to try to push back on that. And I mean, if he'd went that way without taking the stand, he was toast. Taking the stand, you know, could he pull it off? Apparently didn't.
Could he pull it off? Could he pull it off? Apparently he didn't. And the next question is, do you regret not asking for a change of venue? Could he pull it off? That's kind of my takeaway from the trial. That's Poot's feeling on the trial. Could he pull it off? Apparently not.
Not really, because we checked. I mean, we did focus groups in this case in a county way far away from here. 8 of the 10 people on the 2 focus groups knew all about this case. I mean, there was nowhere you could go that you could find.
Fair.
We believe you could find a jury that didn't know, hadn't watched TV, hadn't read the stuff you write or the stuff the Twitter stuff.
The
and by
Twitter
way,
stuff?
One of the good piece of information now that this trial is over, Griffin can start tweeting again.
That's right.
All right, thank you guys.
Griffin can start tweeting again. That's the takeaway. Griffin can start tweeting
The
again.
defense team.
Poot's pointing at people as he's walking off. That was from WFLA. We can actually watch, if you want to watch them walk off, we can watch them walk off. But that is the end of the defense press conference that we waited so long for, answering some questions for the media. And I think we got the real feelings about that with Poot saying he doesn't regret Alec taking the stand. They wanted to see if Alec could pull it off. And apparently he didn't. Saying that he doesn't regret not asking for a change of venue in the case because they focus grouped it in other venues and there was nowhere that they could go where there wasn't jurors that had heard about this case. This is going to continue to be a problem in the justice system for how do you find venues anywhere where jurors don't hear about the case when the cases have kind of caught the attention of the nation, because information travels so much faster with social media than it used to. You're not dealing with just regional newspapers. And even when you are dealing with regional newspapers, those regional newspapers can be distributed nationally and internationally on the internet. So it is a problem that the legal profession is going to have to address. I don't know what the answer is. I know what the question is. I'm very good at asking questions. I have questions. What I wish I had was answers. But them joking about, Jim Griffin tweeting again is just, and it's not that he can just start tweeting again because he's still got 99 other cases that he's dealing with. So I just don't know where we go. I don't know where we go in an age where information is so readily available. And I believe that information should be so readily available to find jurors who aren't influenced by information outside of the court. I don't know what the solution to that problem is. It is a massive problem that will have to be dealt with, because what we don't want is the second somebody's arrested, everybody goes, oh, well, fuck that guy, he's a murderer. And then you can't find them a jury anywhere to actually see the evidence. That's not how our system is supposed to work. And how do we deal with that as a society other than starting with, yeah, somebody's been arrested, I have questions. Yeah, somebody's been arrested, I have questions. It's like, oh, okay, they've been arrested. We need to wait and see the process work and how it works. Do we take jurors' phones away? What is the solution? I don't know. Maybe it's a society that's more cynical. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Oh, sorry. All right. I need my in-ears. I need to finish this and go deal with weather and food and lunch and things. So I'm going to answer a few more questions and then we are going to go, but I don't know. I don't know. I know what the questions are, and I am here to continue to discuss the solutions. We're going to have to figure it out as a society, because it impacts our system of justice. Megan said, but Emily, you have to remember when our system was put in place, towns are small and everyone knew everyone. Information got around quickly there too. It did. I don't disagree. It just becomes a prevalent issue when it feels like jurors could be influenced so much from outside of their community. It's just a hard thing. All right. And I think it's a conversation worth continuing to have. That's going to be a hell of a soundbite. He thought he could pull it off. Yep. Sure is. Does Jim know media, TV, and Twitter are all international? Yep. Does appeal go to another jury or lawyers or judge? No, appeals are handled by other courts separate in our separate system. Oh, it just got weirdly sunny. Okay. Appeals are handled by a separate system, separate judge or judges, and then it goes through that system. And they're also said they might do a federal appeal to the Supreme Court. This will be on appeals forever. We are not done with this case. We will be following this case. The trial is just the start. We will be still covering this case. Okay. Have you seen the reenactment on YouTube in 2023? Real-time cell usage is probably better estimation of time of death than any estimation by the coroner after the fact. I haven't seen the reenactment on YouTube, but I found the cell phone argument to be very helpful, personally. Emily, do you think he is guilty of pulling the trigger? What are your feelings? He is guilty of a lot of things and privilege, but not sure about the murder. I haven't really processed my feelings. I've been doing so much live coverage of this that I need to sit down. Really, I have not evaluated my own feelings well on this case, which is why I don't give them a lot. I have feelings on the process of the case and how it went and the questions I still have. But could I confidently say he did it or confidently say he didn't do it? No. And I would need to go through that on my own. Which is why jurors don't do live commentary all day, every day, because jurors are supposed to appreciate their feelings. With his sentence, is AM allowed to own any property? I don't know how he would, but they can't tell you can't own property. So the estates should be offloading it. Could he put things into the name of his son? Yes. He still has civil cases pending. So we'll see how they deal with that financially, but they can't just take his property away. Let me just check my weather warnings real quick. So give me 1 sec. I just need to take a look at my weather here. No, it looks like that line passed. Okay. Thanks, y'all. It looks like that line is past me, which is good. Yay. All right. I'm going to answer a few more questions and then I'm going to wrap up. The mods are exhausted. Y'all are exhausted. We're exhausted. We've seen all the things we need to see. We've got severe weather here and it's just time. Raisharu said if he was innocent and thought things were going so bad, he would have hired a private detective to find out who killed the family. We can't say if he was innocent, he would do this or that. Because he's presumed innocent. I think the strong argument for the jury, though, to be fair to that argument, the strong argument for the jury was he wasn't worried about Buster. He never expressed regret about not being there to catch who did this or to see who did this. There are things we can look at that he did and look at his actions that he did vis-a-vis the other circumstances. Netflix series shows how the family always swept in to clean up the boys' messes. Did the same thing happen here? Closed guns cleanup? I don't know. I haven't watched the Netflix series yet. And I don't know what the family did or did not do. Taking the stand was a mistake, though anything's possible. People could have helped him clean up. They absolutely could have. That doesn't mean he's not guilty of murder. If people helped him clean it up, then still guilty. Taking the stand was a mistake. I was still on the fence before that. If it was actually him at the kennels, I would have left questions versus clearing them up. And I think a lot of people felt that way. I think him taking the stand is what did it. But you heard from his own attorney. He thought he could talk his way out of it. That's what we voted on early. And all of you said, yeah, he took the stand because he thought he could talk his way out of it. He thought he could what? Pull it off? Well, he didn't. And, when I reflect on that, that might be the thing that makes up my mind. First time law honor during this case. I enjoyed your commentary and skills on flipping feeds all day, every day. I'll continue to watch. Well, welcome. We're glad to have you. I'm going to do a few more questions and then we are going to bounce. Is it possible that the hate in their heart comment was an attempt to deflect blame onto the Beach family for the lawsuit? It's possible. I read it as him. I think Alec was angry that the boat case, hey, my tornado watch just got canceled. Yay. I think it was really his feelings on the boat case, that the boat case was bringing the family down. The Gloria Satterfield stuff was already coming out, but the boat case really put it in focus. But the civil boat case doesn't go away if Paul's alive or dead, which is where it's hard to see. But again, when you try to rationalize someone whose self-preservation instincts, according to the state, are to just take out what's around him, it's different and it's hard. Do you think a lack of emotions, Buster's indifference at trial, worried Daddy can't protect him? I don't know. I don't know what it feels like to go through what Buster's going through. And I'm very familiar with people detaching when the emotions are too much. So I don't know. Discuss sheriff behind AM this morning. Yeah. The sheriff behind Alec Murdaugh this morning was just like, yep, he did. But again, that sheriff is someone who's interacting with Alec Murdaugh daily. Emily, I'm curious about whether they did a psych evaluation on Alec. They might have. Do you think he may have been suffering with a personality disorder? The defense did not bring it up. They might have done a psych evaluation and not used it. Will you cover the Meghan Markle defamation case? Yes, I will. I have covered a little bit of it. I have not checked back in with it in a while, but yes, I will. If it goes to trial, I very much hope it's streaming. It's not a federal case, it's a state case, so it can be. And we have, sorry, my in-ears just got tangled. And we have some court hearings in the Petito laundry lawsuit that I haven't covered yet either. But yes, I will. I will. The hardest part about covering the Markle case is limiting the strong feelings against or for Meghan Markle. It is very difficult on the mods. With the amount of trolling that happened that day, woo! The amount of racist comments towards Meghan Markle was just unhinged. I was not prepared for that. So let us continue. Once he took the stand, didn't he waive his Fifth Amendment rights? He waived his Fifth Amendment right once he took the stand, but that doesn't waive your Doyle rights to not comment on his post-arrest silence and stuff. So let us continue. I know I am trying to get to as many super chat questions as I can. When I can see that there's a question, I am trying to get them. I just don't know if I will be able to get them all, but I'm trying to. I have seen the comments, but I'm trying to get through the questions. Isn't Salinas v. Texas against their Doyle complaint? I do not remember Salinas v. Texas as well, and I am definitely not the lawyer. I would have to look at it again. I am not the lawyer that remembers case law off the top of my head. I always have to research case law. Song lyrics, yes. Movies, yes. Everything that's happened on Real Housewives, yes. Case law, no, because I am mostly an auditory learner and things I read do not stick in my brain the same way as things I hear. So I would have to look at it. Not sure if you've talked about this already, but what do you think about the jurors saying that they were able to convince the two not guilty and one unsure in 45 minutes? Isn't that part of the jury instructions? You can't do that. No, that's jury deliberation. That's deliberation. Deliberation is you go in and you have a chat about it and you all try to come to an understanding. That's literally what deliberation is, which is why it's so rare when you see an 11-1 hang, because normally the one person who's holding out will side with the others. So no, that's the purpose. That's the purpose of jury deliberation, is they deliberate. People come in not sure, and then they chat with the other jurors, and then they vote again. Christine said, I've been watching you for quite some time, found you from Aphrodite. I'm an insurance claims adjuster and have a different sort of law background. It's great to find this community. Welcome. The defense press conference makes me feel icky. It plays into the idea of the old boys club. They didn't get their way and will try to make everyone else seem like they are the problem. SLED is a problem, but both things are true. Deputy Heard was also, or Dep V Heard was also very public, yet based on the overwhelming evidence, Johnny was found not liable. Based on culture, it was initially in Heard's favor. His actions and behavior matter. I agree that actions and behavior matter. A motion to change deliberate to Sharp Putlian. I don't know about that. It's hard to say. Butterfly said, question what happens with the cases he worked on as a solicitor? Retrial? No. His subsequent commission of a crime doesn't undo his work as a commissioner. What's your biggest question you have left? I want to go back through the timeline. I have questions about Maggie's phone. Yeah, I'm sure I have other ones, but at the moment, those are the two that stick out. That's what sticks out in my mind. It doesn't truly matter. The jury came back with what they came back with. I really do look forward to seeing the appeal and seeing it cleanly laid out, the things that they have issues with. Emily, thanks for covering these trials. You're welcome. My husband is a lawyer in RO. I was thinking Rhode Island, and that's not it, in RO, and is jealous that I'm not interested in his cases. I'm sorry. Wonder how much money in Girardi was. I don't know. I think a lot of it, because there was a lot of Vioxx settlement money there. Question, didn't in his opening statement, he said he was proud and honored to defend Alec? Yes, he also said he would prove Alec innocent in his opening. Will you ever tell us your theories you said you had throughout? I generally put those things in the I Have Thoughts podcast. So that's where those will go once I have distilled my brain, which is now full of information and needs a minute. Question, how do you get your bun so perfect? I promised a bun tutorial. There will be one soon. Bobby pins. Kimberly said, question, do you and your kids ever play Battlefield 5? I think my kids do. I don't. If so, I hope we wind up in a server together this weekend for some stress relief. This weekend, I will be busting out the Nintendo Switch and playing some. I need to visit my Animal Crossing island, and I want to play Pokemon. Maybe that's why Alec Murdaugh picked up Paul's phone trying to delete the kennel video. I don't think he knew it was there. I think he was trying to find out what was there, possibly. Maybe Maggie's family didn't want to say anything and want to maintain their relationship with Buster. That's tricky. It is tricky. Did you see Cousin Eddie attorney's statement? Your thoughts? I saw it on Twitter. I did see it. I covered it on Law and Lumber last night with Rob, and I'm not surprised they made a statement. Cousin Eddie, this defense team has not even loosely alluded to the fact that Cousin Eddie might be the killer. So I'm not surprised his attorneys put out a statement because Cousin Eddie still has cases to go. Bubba is only guilty of foul play. Touche, Wanda. Touche. Well played. Did you finish the juror video? We did earlier. What earpiece are you wearing? It's a Shure earpiece. Who is the blonde defense attorney? I didn't catch her name. Oh, Lynn, Romania. Sorry, I was thinking states in the U.S. Apologies. Thank you. In Romania, stay safe. I know you guys have gotten quite a lot going on with the earthquakes. Carol, I don't know how you did that, but it's adorable. So there we go. Carolyn said, I find it hard to feel sorry for Buster. He wasn't grieving when he was in Vegas after the murders. I feel you and I hear you. I'm not going to judge people's grief. Buster is going to have a very hard time living his life. You guys, I think we're going to have to do pickle naming. I have so many super chats I'm not going to get to. I think we're going to have to do pickle naming on Tuesday because my brain can't. And we need to put up polls, and I need to go back through my notes. This all went way too fast at the end. I thought I would have time. I need to go back through my notes and see the names that we all came up with. Why do you think there were no victim impact statements? I think they were done. And as the defense attorney said in their conference, it wouldn't have helped. It wouldn't help. Kelsey said, EDB, I just found out I got accepted to my dream grad school. Congratulations. I couldn't have done it without you, and the law nerds keeping me company. We're here for you. Rihanna said, beer and pizza for moving day. I mean, it's definitely time to get food. Who grabs Fred and who grabs George during spinny things? Be safe. Travis always grabs George. I grab Fred. Do you think he may no, I don't. And I don't speculate on that because it's too horrific, and compounding tragedy with tragedy is never helpful. Jeanette said, I still have problems with time of death. Okay. No knee prints at the scene. True. Just didn't make sense. That's fair. The state presented their time of death through digital evidence. So, congratulations, Nicole. Emily, I know you have stated it before. Why did you say you wouldn't try this case? I said I wouldn't file this case, and I stated it earlier today, so I'm not going to reiterate that, but I stated it earlier today. Why would AM want to go to trial when he is already admitted to stealing? You never know. You never know what somebody's thinking. I think they'll try to resolve it, but also the prosecution has to deal with those cases fairly. And if the prosecution doesn't say, hey, we will do, we'll do this or that, the prosecution not giving any inch on those cases, they might be, the only thing we can do is to try it. And the only thing we can do is to try it. And once we try it, then we're going to sentence you to life on those. So it might be that he has no choice. And they want to try it because he's confessed. Emily, are you going to watch the Netflix doc? Yes, I just don't know if it will be this weekend. Ever since discovering you, I cannot watch a trial without your informative and entertaining commentary. Thank you. You are welcome, Cindy A. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for all the compliments, and I see them. I'm going to try to get to questions. Frasent said, question, is the use of technology justified in the absence of forensic evidence in this case? The technology is forensic evidence in this case. This has been one scenario where I thought should have been solid. I mean, the technology was the forensics in this case. If I misunderstood, I apologize. Lucas said, can we get a cursey word countdown so when you're past the time limit for new YouTube rules, we know when it's safe to let the curse words fly? I don't even know what the new time limits are. I bleeped it out of the intro. I try to give it past a few minutes in, but maybe the team and I will have to figure out how to do that. Since he admitted guilty to the financial crimes, how does that play forward in the court case? He could plead, he could go to trial, and then they would present it. So it just depends. The judge wanted the death penalty, it seemed. I think he commented on the restraint of the state in that. I don't know. Could prior AM clients demand money or another shot at their lawsuits if previously lost? Citing Alec Murdaugh was under the influence. I don't know about that. Question, what would Alec's motive be to murder his wife and son? We've heard lots of them presented by the state. Mostly to preserve himself. How does Alec taking the stand impact appeal chances? I think can impact, it depends on the grounds of the appeal, but I think it impacts whether it's reversible error or not, because it might be, yes, there was error here, but then he took the stand. And so because he took the stand, it doesn't matter that there was error here. Did you see the Parker Law Group comment via Anjanette? I did not. Let me go look over there because now I'm curious. And then we will wrap up. The mods are like, you keep saying that. Lies, all lies. It's like when Creighton's like, I'll be quick, and I'm yelling lies. It's like, okay, we'll just check this out and wrap it up. Lies! Lies! Let's see. This is from yesterday on Anjanette Levy's Twitter. Statement from Parker Law Group, the firm created after PMPED disbanded, issued a statement regarding the verdicts. His brother still works there. Parker Law Group, the actions of Alec Murdaugh are shocking to us all. Tonight's verdict, which was rendered after a thorough and fair trial, brings justice and some closure to this awful matter. Maggie and Paul died tragically and for reasons we may never fully comprehend. They were much beloved, and we will forever mourn their loss. This is where his brother still lives. Rebecca, thank you for this comment and pointing me in this direction. Or this is where his brother still works. This is his brother's law firm's statement. Rendered after a thorough and fair trial. Those are very big statements from the Parker Law Group. So those attorneys, including numerous attorneys who testified, think that this was a fair a fair trial and justice and closure. That is a brief but impactful statement, I think. What do you think? Brief but impactful? Maggie and Paul died tragically for reasons we may never fully comprehend. Yep. And this brings justice. They called the Parker Law Group, where Alex Murdaugh's brother still works, called this verdict justice and closure. It's a strong statement. You don't need a lot of words to make a strong statement, and they absolutely did. All right. Poot's age didn't excuse prejudice and slurs towards marginalized victims. Age is no excuse. He tries to say, you see him going, oh, wait. Throughout this trial, questions, is it common for juries to have field trips like they did? And this one, never heard of it. If it's helpful to the jury, juries can do jury views. And we've seen it in a couple high profile cases. So yes. If Markle v. Markle goes to trial, I will be there Depp Heard style in Pensacola. It'll be interesting if it does go to trial, and we will see. Hopefully it will be streamed, because I think for me, it's helpful to be here watching it on court and breaking it down versus sitting in court and trying to tell you what happened afterwards. Question, do you think either side did a solid job of laying the groundwork from which the jury could find fact? The jury said they did. So I think the jury said they did. And if the jury said they did, then that's what we have to go with. With that, Law Nerds, it has been almost 4 hours. My throat definitely hurts. And it is time. It is time to wrap up. Let everybody go and have a good weekend. If I missed your super chat, I apologize. I tried to get to as many as I can that I could see the question on. For all of you who thanked me for my coverage, thank you for being here. A huge thank you to the mods. I will be back on Tuesday. We will cover something lighter. And maybe I will give you some more thoughts after I decompress for the weekend, and we will do a decompression stream. We need a decompression stream. Amber, I see it. I do see it. I do see them, and I go through and read them. I try to bring up the questions so I can get to them. So I do see them, and I do read them all. If I don't pull them up on stream, I do read them all. And I appreciate you, all of you. With that, we will have a decompression stream on Tuesday. We will cover something light, and we will just be together in community and talk after we have the weekend to kind of process our thoughts. And I'm sure there will be more questions and more statements after the weekend. Will I try to watch Netflix? I don't know. If I do, we'll talk about it on the weekend on Tuesday. So I'll keep you posted what Coffee and Cursey Words is going to be on Tuesday, and we will cover that then. I saw the requests. Pickle with voice changer or no voice changer? What do you think? What do you think? We'll do a decompression stream on Tuesday. Voice changer, no voice changer? I think voice changer.
I think it's the only way to say goodbye. I miss you. I will see you soon. Y'all are the best. Law Nerds Unite. Thank you to the mods. And with that, let's all just cleanse our aura. Let's just do it. We're here. We've made it. Almost 30 days of trial. We were all younger when we started this. 30 days.
Almost of this trial. 29 days from jury selection to verdict to sentencing. Y'all, a lot has happened, and we have been through it. We started this in January. It's March. But with that, I appreciate you. I will see you soon. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being Law Nerds. I will see you Tuesday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take the weekend. Y'all deserve a break. Good work. Good work, community. It's a lot to process. Bye. You can find all the Law Nerd goodies at lawnerdshop.com. Connect with me on social media at the Emily D. Baker. And don't forget to check out my podcasts, The Emily Show, and the new podcast, Quick Bits, summarizing everything I talk about on my Tuesday and Thursday live streams. You know, when you only have time for just the quick bits. You can find all the Law Nerd goodies at Law